Hi, everybody. We hope you're having a really fabulous night tonight. We're so glad that you're here. It's been a really incredible month that we've had this experience here in Hazard Bedlam 3.0, and we're so glad. I'm Emily. I'm your master of ceremonies, so you've been hearing a lot from me this month. And over here next to me is Carl, Patreon.guy Carl, as he's commonly known. So I'm
That's what they
actually
call me
going to
on the
be,
street.
yep, that's what people call you.
That's
Um,
true.
I'm going to be behind the scenes running things tonight, as is often my way, and Carl is going to give you some color commentary. Ha ha ha. Thanks, Carl. I appreciate that you laughed at my joke. But anyway, I'm going to let Carl take it away. Carl, do you have anything you want to add before I disappear into the void?
Tonight we are going to celebrate and really just completely disassemble all of the many champions who were selected by their peers to compete for Pierce's affections or whatever, plus many other fabulous prizes. There are going to be some extremely gory descriptions in here. You're gonna love it. I'm gonna love it. We're gonna have an amazing time together, and I hope that I hope you enjoy yourselves.
So, all of you champions, I know you've already been through the ringer, so I just want to wish you good luck, courage in the arena, and may the best Howler win. All right, now Carl is going to explain to you how this game is going to work.
So, Emily and I created this game together over Discord and several sort of long email chains. But here's how Hazard Bedlam 3.0 is going to work. Your favorite two men in the world, Pierce Brown, aka Howler 1, and Artifacts Maximus, Joel Daniel Phillips, the Chief Creative Officer of Lit Escalates, are going to be rolling D20, which is a 20-sided die, like the one seen on this very slide, to decide the fate of your champions. Each of our adjudicators, those are Pierce and Joel, will roll one d20. Each roll will be tallied individually, with the highest roll taking the victory. The best of 5 rolls is going to take the match. The winner of each bracket entry will advance to the next round, winnowing the field down from the initial 13 to an eventual 2 champions, who will battle to the death in the final bleeding place for the ultimate prize, the blood-soaked die used to reap the field of contestants, plus a custom embroidered Howler jacket made to clothe their lithe, hard, and victorious form. We got the bracket up? Great. The order of the first round of matches, it will be as follows. Starting off with green versus pink, continuing to yellow versus copper, then to blue versus white, gray versus obsidian, and silver versus orange. Observant howlers among the lot of you will have noticed that the bracket looks a little wonky, which is a direct result of there being only 13 colors represented in Hazard Bedlam 3.0. Surely, none among you would want to be known as the architects of a society as oppressive and unjust as the society depicted in these books. If you would want to do such a thing, tough shit. We're not going to let you. And so, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Pierce Brown and Joel Daniel Phillips, the founders of this bloody feast. Thunderous applause, please.
That was a hell of an
Pierce, how's
introduction.
it going?
How you doing?
I'm good.
I think I wish Carl would introduce us every time we went into a room.
I know. I feel like I just need to wear him in a backpack behind me, and then he just talks over my shoulder, and not only get amazing commentary, I'd also have a hype man everywhere I went.
We'd have to shrink him down a little bit though. For these of you who do not know Carl, he would not fit in a backpack. But we'd have to
He's
develop
not
the
pocket-sized
technology.
Patreon man.
I'm just thinking of him walking ahead of me into a room, kind of like in A Knight's Tale. But you can get the baby Bjorn route.
You could give him a little glass space helmet, sort of space to look out of when he's hiding, and he can pop his head out when he really wants to say something.
Like a cat backpack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like a cat backpack. Well, first off,
I
want to thank
something for Howler apparel. Yeah, go ahead.
Ideas. Well, first off, everyone, thank you so much for playing this month's Hazard Bedlam. This year's is the third year we've done this. It's the biggest year we've done this. It's been the most fun for us on our end of things. I hope it's been the most fun for you. We got, well, maybe a little bit overly excited about the process of creating all of this color chaos. And at a certain point, as we were setting up all of this, there was a moment where I know Emily, certainly, who put all of this together in the back end, had several miniature panic attacks, realizing how complicated all of the back end was going to be. So I just want to give a shout out to Emily for coming up with not only this entire Discord server. Emily has done an amazing job helping run all of the amazing back end stuff with all of the incredible proctors who have been helping run everything as well. Thanks to you guys. You guys are the best. But my favorite part personally has been able to sit on the back end and watch how folks have been able to connect with their own color and other people in that space. You know, this year, every year Hazard Bedlam has been about community, but this year it felt like a really special thing to be able to watch so many of you become friends with other people who are pilots, who are artists, who are, well, poets and sex folks and whatever else. It's really been amazing to watch, and I hope that those friendships that you all have built will continue. And we're hoping to keep this Discord running down the road. It'll probably go on pause for a while. We give everyone a break and we figure out what we want to do with it. But that's my thank you to everyone. So thank you so much for participating, for being part of this. It's really a delight to watch this community grow and to watch this community get to know each other. So Pierce, any thoughts on the chaos that you've been watching unfold?
Just continually surprised by the spectrum of people who are full spectrum of people who are interested in Red Rising and find a home in it. I don't think that I've read many things that have created such, how do I say it, varied and interesting group of people as readers. And when I looked at the champions that were being presented, I was
Going to be a bloody feast, as Carl put it.
Apologies on my end. I just had a technical difficulty. That was my bad, and it did cut off what you were saying, Pierce. If you want to say the last part again, I will try to avoid doing that a second time.
Cut me off?
I cut you off. It was because I wanted it to be all about me. I was like, oh, can't we go back to the part where people were saying nice things about me? But no, say nice things about the event instead. So I'm so sorry.
You know, we got to deal with this issue. I don't know where I was cut off, but basically, it's amazing seeing the different professions and the different interests and the varied group of people to find these books. Can't wait to see who stands upon the carcasses of their enemies. I'm not sure what was missing.
Hell yeah. Carl, do you want to start us off with the next step of this chaotic and terrifying process?
You're goddamn right I do, boss. All right, so, going in, like I said, our first matchup is green versus pink. And let's meet our first contestant, shall we? So the green color cast is devoted to technology, silicon, and wires, a group of individuals genetically and mechanically engineered to interface with communication transhumanists to their core. Representing this group of cyborg technicians is none other than Jifo. Chosen as Primus by his peers, Jifo embodies the spirit of willful transformation, of adapting to changing circumstances, of rolling with the punches. Those of you lucky enough to have gotten to know him over the course of this month will have witnessed his adaptability and general good cheer in the chat. The pink color cast, as we all know, is devoted to beauty and the pleasures of the flesh. They are trained for companionship, for entertainment, for the soft and seductive sciences of sex. Representing these alluring angels is the affable and appealing Crust, whose entry has brought a flush of her color to the cheeks of many a viewer. Crust was chosen by the Pinks to compete for the laurel tonight, and we at Escalates wish her and all of our champions the best of luck in the challenge that awaits them. Before we really begin these gory festivities, Joel, I believe you have some fan questions from the Discord about greens and pinks.
I do indeed, and my apologies because I don't actually know on my list here who asked these questions, but you will know and you shall be proud. So we're going to start off with a question about greens for Pierce. Question number 1. What are the different subclasses, what do the different subclasses of greens look like? Are there more than just the Fulgur Bellator? Are there different levels of augmentation or tattoos, i.e. cyberpunk?
So Cyberpunk hit a vein because it had delved very deeply into a terrain, which I just didn't get to explain in the books. So I think for each and every color, there's myriad classes and ranks. Some of them are fun because I think of them up, during the book and what's needed. Other ones were, instituted back in like 2014, 2015 when I was doing Golden Sun. But yeah, so you have class of the greens, which are the Fulgar Bellators, which are the battle greens, so to speak. But then you also have the architects. The architects are ones who create digital realms, basically. Imagine existing like in Middle Earth, but it was designed by an architect, and so you can put your consciousness into there. So that's kind of those experientials that are seen in the
I might have
bazaar.
to change my color designation to be a green. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, man. Well, the problem is they kind of like in my own personal canon, it became so deleterious to the functioning society because it was so lovely existing in these other realms that people were stopped working completely, right? So I think the Greens were like in about 200 PCE were really kicking ass, and these amazing digital landscapes existed from the architects, but there's far fewer architects now. There's also individuals who do more systems administration, and then also who create what do they call them? The not the architects. The name's eluding me right now, but basically they're the builders, the ones that create firewalls and create the military systems that, particularly in the Solar War, are very much required to protect your systems from the enemies. Because the Fulgur
Yeah.
Bellators are just the ones on the front line. You also have pod greens, and they function like kind of like in groups, like 33. And so these pod greens are hackers that work together on a digital landscape to basically hack the enemy. But they're located deep within the bowels of a dreadnought,
Yeah.
and then having wars with each other that none of the golds even notice, right? And so those
That's
wars are
amazing.
those wars are, it's kind of far beyond my mental pay grade to like think about what those wars are, but it's basically high tech battles within the defense networks that they have.
Yeah.
Planet.
Well, I feel like I have like 37 follow-up questions I want to ask, but I have to finish that question because the favorite part of that question that I wanted to hear an answer for personally was, what about different levels of augmentation and tech, i.e. cyberpunk? Do like greens have like all
For
sorts of
sure.
different apps to plug in and all sorts of crazy augmentations?
Particularly within the Republic, less so within the traditional Gold Society, and less so in the Rim, but much more so than any other caste, really. You don't see as many cyborgs so much in the other colors, simply because of the border quality control doesn't permit that. But the Greens would have the most things. So, like for instance, the Greens can actually take a hard wire and hardwire it into a port in their head, right? But also, Greens are not trying to do too many physical activities because that's usually outsourced to other colors. And a lot of the augmentations in Cyberpunk are related to perpetuating or perpetrating physical violence, which Greens, it's all well and good, but going up against golds and grays, particularly if grays are also physically augmented, would be a difficult proposition. So there's they'd be much more of a like how do I say it? Yeah, sure they can hack a system, but they're not going to charge in front line.
That makes sense. I love that question so much. And your answer was fabulous. Actually, I really enjoyed it. So we have one more question about greens, and then we've got a couple questions about pinks. So, second question about greens: what are typical green jobs?
Joel has to download back from space.
Back
Sorry.
now.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm back!
Yeah.
Great.
Assuming that was me. Was that you, Joel?
That was me. That was not you.
that was
I tried to
Joel,
blame it
yeah.
on you, but it was actually me.
So what was your question?
My question. Oh, it died before the question even happened. Okay. What are typical green jobs across the Republic? Are all the roles in technology, or are there greens in the military or other industries? I feel like you sort of answered that question. But
Yeah,
I think
military, other industries. Yeah, systems administration would be huge. I mean, codifying the large amount of data that is needed in any economic enterprise would be huge with them. They would work heavily with coppers. I also imagine in the era of free enterprise, they're also very heavily invested in working with the pinks. I do presume that in the Republic, pink only fans sprung up, and who would be more natural allies than greens and pinks? Which is kind of ironic that we have them fighting like this when really they should be holding hands all the way to the bank.
And we should all really be holding hands against the goals in the first place, shouldn't we?
Yeah, this is true. This is true, and that is a perfect segue.
Every single color wants to hold a hand with the pink. So
They're very
Uh,
soft.
All right, we've got some questions about pinks here, so let's get to those. All right, question number 1 for the pinks. We saw with Lyria how easily forgotten and almost discarded some of the low colors are, especially on Mars. So would it have been possible for some people who would have been nearing the removal of Cupid's kiss that were just forgotten about and never had the implant removed? What fresh hell would that be on top of their already twisted lives?
I don't quite understand the question.
Question.
Let me rephrase it. Let me ask. Are they asking like, did people not have the Cupid's kiss removed?
I also am struggling with this question because I'm reading it out loud. So would it have been possible for some people who have been nearing the removal of the Cupid's kiss that were just forgotten about to have the implant removed? I'm actually struggling. I'm going to skip that question because I'm going to read it in the background when I have a second,
I think
and I'll
what
rephrase it.
they're asking is if people missed their opportunity to get it removed, what would happen to them?
Ah, thank you, Master
Well,
of Ceremonies.
Traditionally, the Cupid's kiss is used in the rearing of pinks. That's a bad choice of words. In the education of pinks, as they're, I know. Sorry, guys. In, in the education of pinks, and it's done to create, little, essentially trauma, which makes them obedient, and to also rewire their brain. So Cupid's kiss is not left in through their entirety of their lives, but in some it is and would be. So yes, if someone was missed their opportunity to have it taken out, then yes, that would be terrible. But mostly it would have to do with someone having a control stone. So a control stone is necessary to control the Cupid's kiss. And for those of you who don't remember Cupid's kiss is, it's essentially a chip in the brain, which can cause incredible amounts of pain if you don't obey your master. Um, and so without the proper control stone, however, it'd be like trying to pair with Bluetooth that won't allow you to pair with it. Yeah, sure, a hacker could do it. Sure, Malevolent Green could do it. But if the control stone's not there for the majority of pinks, it wouldn't be a problem. It would just continue to latent in their head.
That makes sense. And sorry for butchering that question. Whatever question that was is a great question. Another question about pinks. If there can be red/gold hybrids, is it possible that there could be hybrids of other colors? Say pink and gold or pink and obsidian even?
I mean, I think that's a lot of what Mickey was working on. For spoilers for you guys who haven't caught up, but his work with Quicksilver was trying to recreate the Homo sapien, right? And his success with Darrow was being able to create turn a red into gold. However, just because Mickey's able to do it, a very talented scientist / carver, doesn't mean that it's easy to also replicate on Moss. Look at Harmony and the Red Hand and how difficult a job they had trying to create reds like Darrow. And so, yeah, it's possible to do, and I think that would be the future of the society is making people, particularly pinks who are designed to be sterile and grown, particularly would be the hardest probably to crack because you'd have to reverse a couple things. You'd have to make them fertile, and you'd also have to have them be able to procreate with other colors.
That's really interesting. So that leads to the second half of this question, which is, what would those hybrids look like physically? Say pink and obsidian. That's what I want to know about personally.
That's a lot of fingers.
I imagine, yeah. Hot Scary. It would, I imagine, look like, Hot Scary. Pick someone Hot Scary. I don't know. Pale Jason Momoa. I don't know.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much to the folks who supplied those questions. We are going to dive into the actual battle here. Carl, take it on.
Oh, it's time! Howler 1, Artifacts Maximus, are you ready for the first bout?
Yes, indeed. And tell us who we are representing, because I can't see that on my screen. I'm pink.
Engage your cameras, gentlemen. All right, so, Pierce, you are going to be rolling for green and for Gifo. And then, Joel, you'll be rolling for crust and pink. In preparation for this, one, make sure your wrists are nice and limber. Do a couple little circles with your hand. Yeah, nice, good. Once you have rolled your die and it has come to a complete stop, please announce for us the number on the die. I'm not sure we're going to be able to read it. So begin. Roll the first.
Oh, I've got a 10.
All
I'm
right.
so sorry, Crust.
Yeah, Gfo.
Critical failure for Joel, but that's a 10 spot for Gifo over in the greens. Emily, please mark that. Roll again, gents.
All right, here we go. All right.
Here we go. That's a 13. And
9.
a 9.
We have a 9.
That's another one going to the greens.
I'm so sorry, Crust. This is it, though. I can feel it. I can feel it in my hand.
13.
That's a 13 again.
14.
Hey, yeah, the first point on the board for the Pinks. Crust, you can come back still. One more.
This is it. I can feel it. I can feel it building. 6.
Nice. So that one also goes to the greens. That's 3 victories for the greens. Is it possible for Crust to come back after that? Are we going to roll all the way to 5 rolls?
Yes, we are. We're going to roll all the way to 5
roll
rolls.
Again.
All right.
That's an 8 for Killer P.
There's a 9.
Hey,
9 for the Pinks.
Yes. All right. And this is the last
Let's do the math,
roll.
gentlemen. I thought that was 5.
Was that 5?
That was 5. It was 3 to 2.
All right. Yeah, all right, cool. Then there we are. It's done. So
Crest, I'm so sorry to have failed you in this. Please accept my most heartfelt apologies.
I was really hoping that someone would give the Pinks a fair shake, you know?
Tried. I really tried.
Well, there's always the future, isn't there? Congratulations,
Heartbreaking early end for the Pinks. Oh my god.
Truly. Sometimes it just happens too soon, you know? Congratulations, Gifo. You move on to the next round where you'll be facing the red champion. And Crust, your broken body is swept away by arena-employed Browns and shot out of an airlock into the void, where it will freeze and float forever amongst the stars. We salute you and your noble efforts. You're a winner in our hearts. All right, so moving on. Shed a single tear for poor Crust. Our next matchup here is going to be Yellow versus Copper. So let's meet our champions here, eh? So, as we all know, Yellows are medics and chemists, experts in the mechanisms of the human body and its interactions with the universe. You got a hangnail? Seek a Yellow. Kidney stone? Talk to a Yellow about it. Poison from ingesting like 15 to 30 AAA batteries? Call your Yellow buddy. That Yellow buddy, I should mention here, is none other than Stephanie Wayout, who was selected by her Yellow Fellows as champion for their color. Stephanie Wayout is one of a vanishingly small percentage of the human population who has a doctorate under the 21st century system of measurement.
Carl, I really want to see my backpack there.
This is going to get weirder from here.
I'm down.
Like around, I think I started drinking wine at around blue versus white. Yeah, but that's yesterday. Today is the rest of it, and I'm just sort of running on sleeplessness. So, all right, Coppers, Homo Cuprum, under the Board of Quality Control, are the administrators, lawyers, and bureaucrats of the society. They're the ones who make the rules and make sure the Greys know what to do when they're out there cracking heads. Coppers, with gold approval, figure out what must be enforced and make sure that it happens. Your copper champion is, of course, Jack, aka No Capel Jack, whose whole alignment and success in his academic career is, he says, due to reading Red Rising.
My boy.
So, Joel, you've got a fan query or two from the Discord, I believe. Please address those to Howler 1 if you'd be so kind, sirrah.
I do indeed. All right, we're going to start with the yellows. All right, my friend, we've got some great questions here for you. Starting with the yellows. Why did yellows ever agree to develop biological technology that allowed the creation of a caste system in which they were not included at the top?
That's a good question.
Love this question.
Oh man, that's a great question. I would imagine. I mean, that's not one I've really considered. Um, the funny thing is, we're probably, as we know them, we're not the ones developing it. The caste system began with people wearing uniforms that color. They began as jumpsuits, and I also at the beginning, which is also part of canon, that the color system was far more fair. Just because you were at a particular rung of society does not mean you could also not ascend within society. So you could be a rich yellow, you could be a rich red, you could be a rich blue or successful. And that order that it created in terms of labor didn't necessarily prevent you from having respect, didn't necessarily prevent you from partaking in the spoils so much of the society, you know. Under Silenius's reign, I think that they would have thought it was far more equitable and I thought it was far more noble. But that was predominantly because the people at the top were also enforcing those rules upon themselves. They weren't unpoliced per se. But after 700 years of being unpoliced, how unfair it would get when the tops continue to accrete power, right? A plutocracy of wealth, so to speak. And so Silenius would have been friends with yellows, and those yellows, you know, through that friendship, would have been delighted to create things for him because they knew he was honorable and equitable and had created a system and a structure that allowed for people to excel without creating chaos. And so I think that particularly after World War III, particularly after the violence of religion and political disagreements and scarcity of resources that have plagued Earth, the yellows are more than delighted to help create a system that seemed to work.
When I can imagine, like, if you're in a space where, you know, you're being, like, helping to create something and doing that with some, like, the skills that are closest to your heart and who you are as a human, that, like, even you wouldn't sit there and stop and be like, oh, the future of this could get fucked up. You'd be like, oh my God, look at how my skills are helping shape the universe. And, like, this deepest
You
part of
know,
me,
very far to see that, right?
yeah.
Right now, we're having that with AI. We've had that in the past. If you've watched the movie Oppenheimer, I think that's a very good explanation of how scientists will first see if they can, instead of asking whether they should, or perhaps when they realize they can, they're beginning to wonder if they should, you know. But I think that we also forget there are egotistical people in each one of these colors. There are people that do not care about any other yellows who are yellow, and they just want to say they can.
It's amazing. And that's a really good answer to that question. I thought I was going to catch you out with one, but of course you already had an answer.
The one was the one that got harder, yeah.
All right, question number 2 from the yellows. Are combatmatics yellows attached to gray units or grays trained by yellows?
So the combat yellows would be attached to gray units. Grays are trained just like our Marines and you know, armies, infantry is trained. They can do basic things, and there would even be a gray who can do very advanced things, but is not a yellow. You know, so I imagine it being a tiered system. So like there's a saying that every infantryman's a rifleman. Like every gray is a medic, but you have a medici with them, a combat yellow. And that's, you know, a very different operation there.
That makes absolute sense.
You're playing an RPG. Just because you can apply a field medical pack does not mean you can do open heart surgery.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is making me think of Battlestar Galactica.
But how many people can equip the cure materia is my question. And
Deep
after you
cut.
master the cure materia, does that mean anybody can equip it? Move on.
Move on. All right, we got some
These are
questions about
questions with a
coppers.
lot of answers. Yeah.
All right, we have a first and primary copper Q from all coppers worldwide. That sounds very important. Why
I know
do
what
you
this
hate
is.
coppers?
I know what this is. I know what
Why
this
do you hate
is.
coppers, Pierce?
Oh man! So from Copper's World, I was already laughing. I didn't actually hear the question. What is? I'm presuming it's why do I not like coppers? Why do I not have good
Yes.
coppers?
Why do you hate coppers, Pierce? Why do you hate coppers?
Because they'll never take me
It-
alive.
it's just the gatekeeper, man. It's the bureaucracy in our world. You know. I don't hate coppers. In fact, there's delving into the text, you can't really find a good copper, but that's not necessarily my fault. The story, follows a natural progression, and coppers are very easy scapegoats.
I mean, I have like a follow-up question to this, which is a little more personal, which is, I met you because you were roommates with my brother in college, who is a copper,
Yep.
and as is my dad. So is it a hatred of my family in particular that created your hatred of coppers, or
No, and I would implore you to stop being so egocentric.
I am a violet, okay? I am a fucking violet. It's my prerogative.
No, it really actually stems from the fact that I almost became a copper. I wrote Red Rising immediately after taking the LSAT, and I had an epiphany during taking the LSAT. I prepared to take it all summer, and I had an epiphany during it that it wasn't for me. Like, oh my god, I felt the walls closing in, and so I think in many ways the first copper really set the tone for the rest of the coppers in a protest of the life I could almost lived. In the same way that I kind of teased the Brown cast because my last name is Brown. That I tease the coppers because I was almost a lawyer. So there is some of it is purely based on, well, there's a reason that mortals should not be gods, and sometimes when you're the writing a story, you're like the god of that universe. So you're just gonna make all coppers bad.
Well, I mean that also makes sense. We have a
Maybe
little bit.
in Red God, I'll help you guys out. Maybe.
Don't promise on the things you can't deliver.
It's not finished. It's not. It's a fluid document.
All right, so there's a follow-up point to that question. To improve
There
our
is.
performance
I'm sure
in the
there
Red
is.
Rising universe, could coppers perhaps get a PIP? I don't actually know what that is. What's a PIP? Is there a copper in the chat who can explain this? Capitalized PIP.
Is that like a
Recurring
like a
one. This is another reason you're villains. You have acronyms upon acronyms.
I don't know what does this acronym PIP mean?
Performance improvement plan.
Performance improvement plan from the chat. Thank you to the copper who
us?
told us that.
To
Coppers
us?
perhaps be like
I
if
would
there had
love
to be
to interface
translated
with, baby.
copper.
Yeah, I would love you on this topic. However, maybe we should set up a GoFundMe. That goes directly to Joel and my skiing fund.
Yeah, there we go. I could get behind this. I will personally help make this happen should that happen. All right, we have another question about coppers here. What is the elite version of copper? Gold has Peerless, Orange has Master Makers, Obsidian has Stained. What is coppers?
It's similar to the Lohoi, or the Logos, which is obviously the Logos are the whites who are strictly logisticians, but that comes from obviously Dune Mentats. It's kind of my homage to Dune. I was always in love with the concept of human computers, and that was obviously done because of their fear of AI, because of the AI wars. And so for coppers, it would be a master administrator, or an arc administrator, or an arc admin. And an arc admin is essentially someone who like the most important person in a gold household. Haven't gotten to focus on them much. It's mostly like it was kind of like an older position when I was gonna have it in Dark Age, and then there was character bloat, so I didn't. And in my mind, that they were the people that were the most, that, how would I say it, were the most valuable to gold, but also like a huge vulnerability because they'd have so much power within your household because they know how everything fucking works. And so I was wondering if gold would actually employ them still. And so I'm still having that debate, to be honest. And it's I hate saying that parts of the canon are not formalized or finalized, and that's one thing that I'm not sure is because it's such a vulnerability if one guy can run your entire household.
Well,
Um,
and I mean, no art arrives fully formed, right? And as I'm sure you've talked about it in many an interview, you're not a plotter, you're a pantser. So that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone in who's watching
and
this.
yeah, right. And there's things I entertain because it makes sense. Like I imagine Silliness when he was building a society really heavily relied on coppers to understand. The silvers are going to have their take on how the economy should run, but for there's going to be 10 coppers making it actually happen. And so, yeah, particularly with the formation of the society, I imagine they're quite integral. And this is really fun to get into if I did a World on Red Rising book, because I would love, to do the sub-categories of each and really dive into it and codify it. Because what really survives books, because I don't want them to have incredible float, which sometimes the rough drafts will have, is eliminating these things which are great vignettes, but then don't actually add to the propulsion of the story, and then find themselves in the cutting room floor. But these thoughts have all, and entertained and stuff, and they're in note documents, but it just hasn't been said by a character or hasn't been thought by a character. And that's the difference. In first person narration, it's very much an info dump when I explain this stuff sometimes, as opposed to a third person or an omniscient narrator. You can do those info dumps and it seems much more natural.
I mean, it's so wild. Like, so as a reader, when I read your books, everything feels so natural and it flows so naturally, which I know from knowing you that's a result of like endless rigorous work, right? And you're writing and
First
writing
draft
and
material,
writing.
Joel.
No, it all comes out perfectly every time. No, but like it's so wild to me to think about. As you know, I'm a painter. When I'm working, I start, with sketches and I sort of build out, but like it's not the same sort of process where I'm like shaving parts off. Like I think of writing almost more like sculpting than painting, and that you're like pulling something out of this other thing and you're cutting pieces away to get there. It's like it's wild to me to think about how much information and side stories and conversations has like been written by you, but then cut and it's just sitting somewhere.
Easily over a million have words have not been included, which is probably 50% of the stuff. Oh, and particularly when I have like really what I like doing every day is starting with a blank page and then grafting it onto the whole. And so a lot of those the pages get filled, and then I was like, that doesn't make sense. And so I don't graft it onto the whole. So they'll just be like bits of the Frankenstein monster of bolts that are just, in the bins off to the side. But the problem with me sometimes is remembering which ones I've told and which ones I've not, or which ones I've used. And you know this too from reading all the different drafts.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and this is funny because it brings us back to coppers, and then I promise we'll get to rolling the dice here. So I was wondering, as you were talking about coppers, like what your like if some of your shall we say angst, I'm not going to say that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, towards coppers comes from I know for me, I'm very avoidant as a creative person of some types of organization because it sort of feels like it ruins the process. It like pushes me a direction or another. So I'm thinking about you. I'm like, you're writing a page, you cut a piece off. Does that piece about something have like a pile it goes into, or do we need to hire you a copper to organize your offcuts so that we can build a world book someday?
To go through my old hard drives, yeah.
Okay, taking applications, coppers. All right. Just kidding. We're not
in the chat. No, we
won't. All right, we need to roll some dice here because we've gotten way too deep.
Let's get on to it. Look, I'm here for blood. And I think the rest of us out here in the chat can also speak to that. All right, so Pierce, you're going to be rolling for Stephanie Way Out and Yellow. Make them proud. Joel, you'll be rolling for Jack and the entirety of the copper color.
Family pride.
Let's let the dice hit the felt. So, yeah, roll them. Thank you. On the first
17 for copper!
17 for copper. Pierce, what you got?
12.
12. All right. Score 1 for copper. All right. Make it happen again, boys.
I got an 8.
2.
Oh.
Score 1
That's
for
really good. Sorry,
yellow.
coppers. That is 1 to 1.
3.
I got a 2.
Ugh.
2. It's a tie.
2. Oh my God. Roll again.
All right, roll again. Here we go.
Roll again. This is going to be
10.
roll 2 still.
Pierce is frozen on my end. He may be frozen on yours. Pierce, we're
He
rolling
was.
again.
Here he goes. Do it, dude.
It was a 2.
Is it 2 again?
No, I didn't roll again. I rolled the 2 and then I didn't roll again. Should I roll again?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
please
So
do.
sorry, you were frozen, so you must not have heard. Yeah, roll again because I also rolled a 2. What do you
Looks like a
got?
14.
14 to 10. Shit. Sorry, coppers.
Oh, coppers.
All right, 2 to 1.
All right.
All
All
right.
right. Yellows. Y'all, you gonna take it?
14.
Is that a 14
Couldn't
and a
get-
15 for Pierce?
Ah, I'm so sorry, coppers. I thought we had that one.
Ugh. All right. One last roll, folks.
11.
And
1.
a 1. Oh my God. Yellows. I am so sorry about this.
Continue to let every
I think coppers just won, not or yellows just won, not coppers.
Yellow's one.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
go
yellows won.
Healers.
Okay.
Yellows
Yeah.
definitely won.
Sorry,
Um,
coppers.
I'm
I
so
don't-
sorry, coppers.
I don't know if anyone else is noticing a pattern here so far, but I'm sorry for who I'm representing. I did not choose who I'm representing, so blame Emily for choosing me to represent you if you're angry at me.
I can
Sounds-
promise that I
It's a
did
loaded
not
dice.
weight the dice to make Pierce look good. But that's an idea for next time.
Yeah, this might be a Hazard Bedlam
Fantastic.
4.0 idea. Also, I picked who was representing who.
So blame Carl. Blame
yeah.
Carl. I'm so
Come
sorry.
get me then,
Coppers
coppers.
and pinks. Coppers and pinks. I'm so sorry.
Do come get me, pigs. All right. So congratulations, Stephanie. Way out. You move on to the next round. You'll be facing the next champion. And salutes as well to Jack, whose gleaming guts adorn the arena floor. Your sacrifice to the society is not in vain, but inconceivably noble. We honor you and your color. Your body will be loaded into the furnaces that heat the arena, so we will all benefit from your public execution. Solidarity, brother. Love and respect from Lit Escalates. All right. So our next lineup is going to be blue versus white. Let's meet these champs in advance of seeing how they take each other apart. Howlers, bear with me a moment. Imagine directing literal tons of starship across the featureless and unforgiving void of deep space. Can you imagine taking the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of humans under your wing, the responsibility of their delivery entirely in your hands? No? Well, Mean Bean is up to the task. Her advanced training with technologically sophisticated aircraft and her synchrony with those machines are precisely why she was elected by her peers to be the Blue Champion. And the Whites are at it again. The arbiters and priests of the society are the Whites. They are charged with adjudication and ceremonial duties, overseeing formal occasions and having generally quite a lot of pomp. Few Howlers are more respectable and mysterious than the High Priestess Seraph, chosen by the White Conclave to represent them in this bout. That's like a white stream of smoke coming up from the closed chambers where they did this adjudication. Seraph has demonstrated the poise and composure essential to her office as color champion and has been rightly rewarded for it. Joel, please put the questions to Mr. Pierce, if you'd be so kind.
Oh, we've got some great questions here. I hope you're ready, Pierce. We are going to start with whites. So question number 1 for the whites. Do whites keep the histories of all the colors? Is there a super archive where they hold all the knowledge, like the equivalent of the Library of Alexandria? I believe Pierce is frozen for me, which might mean he's frozen for you, so he should come back momentarily.
Extremely frozen.
Was that me or is that you? I'm
That was
back.
you.
I'm back.
It was
is there a
you this
super
time.
archive?
Yeah.
Did you
Oh,
hear
is
my
it
question, or did
me?
it freeze before that for you?
Is there a super archive of histories?
Yeah.
Oh, there are actually multiple super archives. They, in fear of having history controlled by one group in a master archive, which they have on Luna, there are also different archives, like almost like monasteries hidden throughout the society. And in those whites are basically immune, are supposed to be immune from any tampering by outside forces. Obviously, during the Solar War, that's been a bit different. But gonna look into this a little bit in Red God, so I don't give too many spoilers. But yes, there are individual white monasteries that basically follow the histories and also delve into philosophical thought and are many ways like Benedictine monk sects, or perhaps yeah, I think that'd probably be the best comparison.
That is really exciting, especially about learning about more about that in Red God. Question number 2 for the whites. How much power do whites have in society? For example, are there places where whites can store knowledge where the golds cannot interfere, like the Vatican archives? So that's a bit of a follow-up question, and I think you actually sort of
Technically, I
answered
mean,
it.
yeah. So legally, yes.
Yeah.
However, laws are silent in times of war,
Yeah.
so that can be affected. I would say that they're supposed to be autonomous, some of them.
Yeah.
And Selenius and even Octavia would have respected that, but would Atalantia, would others? That's up for debate.
Yeah. And so then kind of back to the beginning of that question, how much power do whites really have in society?
Well, that's up for debate, and also part of Red God. So, now,
Okay, you heard it first here, folks. You heard it first here. All right. So, and now we have the blue questions. What types of other jobs encompass blue? You see pilots and comms in the ships. Would dispatchers, air traffic control, whoever works on with weapons on ships, I would assume they'd all fall under blue.
agree. Greens are also interspersed with some of the communications. Blues are also
Oranges.
navigators. Yeah,
Yeah.
oranges, particularly in engineering roles. However, when say an orange weapons manufacturer is making something, they'll definitely be having a blue who's also consulting with them. But blues are also important in navigation, important in the mathematics of tracking the the gravities of the celestial bodies. Because on a map it looks very simple navigating the solar system, but in reality, it's very difficult. And that edge in using a slingshot around the planet, or using the gravitational pull of a planet, or even a comet or something like that, it can be make or break a military campaign. So blues are also not just in the fighter pilot capacity. They're also
Hmm.
used to plot courses, and they're also used in kind of almost like a cabal of blues. I imagine on some of, and particularly with Virginia, she has like a group of 12 blues who are constantly breaking down numbers during a battle with her, so that she can see the options that are available to her. Because golds know a lot, but they're not specialists, and they might be superior overall, but they're not superior in depth of knowledge a lot of times. And so blues will be crunching the numbers in terms of um, vectors, and in terms of what options are available for gold. And the gold will often choose from that list of options. Or the gold will give a command, and then the blues will actually then crunch numbers and make it actually happen.
Hmm.
And it's a bit interesting because you have the captain of starships, which are blues, and they interface with the actual starship, but the gold is the commander of it. So where does the gold job begin and the blues job begin? And I find that same thing sometimes tricky thing to write.
Yeah. Well, I was debating whether to ask this follow-up question, but then you said tricky thing to write. So I'm going to ask you the question. I remember years ago when you sent me this like graphic of what like in real time the orbits in the solar system actually look like from the
Oh
standpoint of
God.
the sun, where you're moving through and the amount of change of distance between the planetary bodies in real time. So the question is this: have you ever written like a major plot point that you had to unwrite because you realized it would be impossible from like a blue navigation standpoint? Like, oh shit, actually Mercury would not be in alignment with Neptune in that moment at that point based on other things, or
Yeah, my mind when I found out Mercury was closer to Earth a lot of times than Mars is, or because it's constantly tricky. Sometimes there's programs online which will show you the planets, and you can speed through months and stuff, and so you can see how fast so Mercury will rotate like on the sun 4 times before Mars completes, a 1.5 rotations, for instance. And so sometimes I'll plan on that, and then my editor will say, "No one is thinking about this except for you," and I'm like, "Reddit is. Reddit is thinking about this.
The blues are, Pierce. The blues
are." Yeah, I'll try. I'll take a lot of it into consideration, and then, but much like the blues, much like Virginia or another commander, using the blues data that they give them to see what their options are. I'll more so look at the orbits and keep it up when I'm writing particular scenes, and then see opportunities for tricks or an inconvenient thing someone could do to someone. For instance, you don't have if you launched a fleet from Mercury to go straight to Mars, when Mercury was, on the far side of the planet, the fleet would get there later than if you waited a week and a half and then launched when Mercury is in the closer orbit. And so it's like, oh, okay. Just thinking about it from that perspective is interesting. I would say that sometimes it just is a snake eating hill. It's just too much to take into consideration. Like, I envy people on fantasy maps, and when fantasy authors complain about logistics, I'm like, yeah, but at least you know how long it takes to get places. Like, I'm having to do engine design and then different engines between the different societies. Like the Rim has faster ships, but how much faster? And it's sometimes very specific things will then contradict other things you said earlier, and you're just like, God damn it, I wish I was smarter. So it can be difficult. I imagine if it was a fantasy map, it'd be so much easier.
I mean, you'd be working in a single plane; it'd be so much less complicated. And that reminds me of I saw another author that I follow. I saw another author post this thing that said the problem with writing a really smart main character is you have to come up with all the smart things that they do. And that just reminds me of what we're talking about right now, this idea that in your head has to live all of this stuff. And you're like, oh, I'm watching the planet orbitals happen. And this is how, Darrow's strategic move that sort of the whole book hinges on happens. And it's just sort of wild to think about, as an author, that all of that has to live in your head rent free. And
here's an extra conundrum, Joel. Not only do I have characters who are worlds smarter than me, I'm writing from first person perspective, so we also see their thoughts. So how do I make something exciting and surprising when the character is also smarter than me? We can see their thoughts. So if it was third person perspective, much easier, right? But the first person perspective, so it really does make it sometimes tricky. That is it's impossible to do. So you basically are like the Wizard of Oz behind a curtain, trying to just make people believe.
And if you are in this audience and you've caught a small foible somewhere, know how complicated it is now.
Have mercy. It's way easier to thing you've already seen than to actually make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we have far too long.
I have pity on. It's why I have pity on anyone who's they get ripped apart for kind of how their story ends or something. I'm like, yeah, well, now we know it's bad,
Yeah, when you are balls deep in writing something, you are not going to notice that it is bad until you get to the revision stage, and even then,
you're just trying to get a healthy. You're just trying to not pull out your hair and get a healthy night's sleep. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to get this thing out of yourself. But speaking of getting it out of you,
let's get this out.
Let's move on to this roll, shall we?
Good.
All right. We are rolling for blue and white right now. And so, Mr. Brown, you will be rolling for Neen Bean and blue. Mr. Phillips, the fate of Seraph and the White Cast is in your hands. Please begin, gentlemen, and don't forget to verbally announce your roles for the visually impaired, i.e. me, in the chat.
I'm going to try really hard here, guys. I'm going to try really hard.
Try really hard.
You got
11.
11 versus a 6? Is that what that was, Pierce?
That was a 6.
All right. 6
hey!
Point
Early
goes to the whites.
18.
16.
18 versus 16. Point 2 goes to the Blues. They're
That's all right.
calling
Well,
again.
I have one for y'all.
For 20. 16.
8.
16 and 8. Point 3 goes
Oh,
to
no.
the Blues.
Shit.
Not looking good.
18.
Hey!
Oh!
Point 4. This is neck and neck, people. Point 4 is going to the Whites. So we have one more, and this is going to be the thing that decides who walks out of this fold of their arms and legs and everything. Intact. There we go.
Oh no, we got 6.
Oh no! Oh, I'm so sorry, Seraph, but Mean Bean, you.
I'm so sorry. I have really bad luck. I should have told you guys.
Mean Bean, you advance out of this heat, and you will be
Why I
facing
never
the
gamble.
Copper
This
Champion.
is why I never gamble.
It's a great reason. It's
Can
never
we
too
switch
late to start.
dice?
Should we switch dice? Is that what you said? Yeah, here, throw it. See if you can get it at Tulsa.
Just
We
toss
can pick
it.
this up tomorrow.
Just throw it across the.
This is why people, when they're playing TTRPGs, have lots of different sets of dice, because
Just so.
sometimes the dice are haunted. Hopefully this one can be exercised by Joel's mighty power.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch to my left hand only for the rest of the evening. We will see if my left hand has better luck than my right.
Sounds great, homie. I do this all the time. Seraph, your many shattered bones and ruptured organs have made your body inoperable, but the last sight your one working eye has seared onto its retina is a flag emblazoned with a gold sigil fluttering in an imperceptible wind. As your remains are loaded into a ceremonial trash can, your lips curve slightly upward into a smile, with the knowledge that you have served your society well. Salutes and well wishes to you in the next world, Seraph!
Brutal. Who's next?
Wow.
Oh man, coming up next, the slaughter continues with Gray versus Obsidian. So let's meet.
Hey, Gray and Obsidian. All right.
Yeah, let's meet these able-bodied aggressors here. So, patrolling the mean streets of the society's cities are the Grays, charged with keeping order and swinging high-tech billy clubs at the skulls of any who would dare to step out of line. Grays are adaptable, efficient, and bred for systematic loyalty. And who exemplifies these qualities more than our very own Nupster? A Marine and a father, Nupster earned his color's approval by exhibiting bravery and devotion to the society and to the Red Rising fandom. From their homes on frozen moons and planetary ice caps, the Obsidian's hulking forms are made for war, for slaughter. The Obsidians are the only color to have rebelled against the Golds in the uprising known as the Dark Revolt. These monstrosities have used their many-fingered hands to chip their champion, Jenna, from the ice. Jenna's not had an easy go of it, even before being entombed in the cold, but her continual devotion to self-improvement and vanquishing her enemies, both internal and external, made her color's favorite. You've met your competitors now, pixies. Mr. Phillips,
Can we just pause? Pierce, I have a preliminary question for you. Should we hire Carl to narrate an audiobook at some point? I think the answer is pretty.
I think we have to. I think we have to like go into like the bazaar and have like the gladiator matches. And so it would be an excerpt from the underbelly of Luna. Gladiator matches. Yeah, I think that's the way to go for this.
You want to write an audio play? I'll be happy to voice that.
Fantastic. We're booking you. That was by far the best.
Love it. So, right, the fans have questions, Messrs. Phillips and Brown. You are the only ones who can answer them. Gentlemen, if you'd be so kind, let's keep it to one question per color this time, because we are like running a little bit behind here, and I don't want to keep anybody up later.
Less verbose. Yeah.
Less verbose and moving more quickly. We could handle that.
And
so we're gonna start.
I've got so many more jokes that are in this script too, so
I
can't
wait to hear them. All right, starting with the Grays. Can we get more insight on what Grays in the Republic and the Rim go through?
And the Rim go through to a degree the same. The Golds and the Grays and the Society traditionally went through. they are sponsored through. I mean, there are gray academies, the Agoge, or the I'm sorry, the Ludus, which are like the kennel, the Greys call it, raised through or trained through on each planet. But the gold houses sponsor them, and then will sponsor their lives, which also breeds the loyalty. And each one is also like, particularly House Grimace and some of the Sods and stuff like that are doing like experiments on them in order to create even better grays. So giving them better hearing, better sight, better smell, etc. The Republic, it's much more of a mercenary capacity. So a lot of the private security forces and a lot of the freebooters type stuff, even pirates were done by Greys, because the Greys could either then go sign up with imagine like a French Foreign Legion. They could sign up with the Golds of the Society, or they could, sign up with the Republic. But Greys have a lot of incentive to just sell their services during this time of war.
Makes sense. And a follow-up question to that: are there inter-service rivalries between different branches of Greys, a la Army versus Marines?
Usually it's Legion based, like in ancient Rome, simply because they don't have that sort of vision. There'll be like, an aerial legion or an armored legion, etc. But it's much more so based on legion than it is by navy versus army, because the legions are often have in each legion they'll have like an air, a sea, a land force. They'll also work with the blues. So more so, there's like, or like the blues will talk shit about the Greys, and the Greys will talk shit about the blues. So that is probably more the division than Army Navy, the way we see it. Inter legion rivalry is very strong. In fact, they were taking all sorts of games against each other, and that's actually what Roan T. Flavinius won. He won like the best marksman award of all the legions who put in their best marksman on Luna.
Whoa, holy shit.
The Grey Legions have their own Olympics.
Well, I feel like you see that with like when you're first introduced to Holiday and Trig, like the other Greys like shitting their pants when they're like, "Oh my god, who are you?"
That was taken out of Lightbringer was the Praetorians versus the Ash Guard versus some of the Rim guys, versus Lightning Phalanx. They had their own little mock Olympics that was based off of the Pancration and also the Armored Run, which the Greeks used to do when they would go on campaign with each other, but it got taken out. Yeah, that was a really fun chapter. They did this. My favorite was the Armored Run. So in full unpowered armor, see who the best sprinter is, and so you had like the Grimace people. You had it was a really fun couple weeks when I wrote that, but it just didn't work.
Question for the audience: should Lit Escalates publish a series of short stories with some of this chaos? I believe the answer is yes. Okay, we've got some questions about obsidians, and we're trying to move quickly. Carl, please tell me if we're not moving quickly enough.
No,
Obsidian, question number 1. Are there trials to become an obsidian artisan? And are they still warriors?
Artisan, usually that's intertribal. So no, that would traditionally be helmed by the females, who are not sold off into the armies of the golds. So if you're an obsidian artisan who's an obsidian, like in the gold world, like off the pole, then you've done a lot of service. You've graduated. You've done your 25 years and now have a pension, and so you can become an artisan. But otherwise, you're still on the ice, and that's more so tribal stuff. Yeah.
That makes sense. And so, but then they would basically be warriors who hadn't, left the space yet, like they left the ice. Excuse me. They're like
and many of the wars between the people on the ice are fought by women, so it's primarily women in both camps when there's a war between obsidian tribes, and also men who aren't chosen, but they're the minority.
That makes sense. All right, what is your personal favorite obsidian tradition / ritual that we have not seen in the series yet? Okay, ask for a spoiler, asshole.
I think the trial of stains is pretty cool. Yeah, trial is pretty cool. The trial of stains.
Yeah.
Mm.
Tell us
But
more.
like, so there's the basically it has to do with can't pass. It might be in Red God. I don't know yet. So pass.
I'm sorry, that was a sneaky question, you Obsidians. That
Yeah.
was a
Dude, that
sneaky question.
was so subtle, Obsidians. I didn't think you had it
I
in
don't
you.
think of Obsidians as being a subtle group of folks, but god damn, they
Or maybe
almost had
the
you.
coppers could learn from them.
Yeah,
I
no,
know. Oh,
maybe
shit.
coppers. I hope you're taking notes.
Yeah,
Also,
are you
Obsidians,
taking
please and Kypus. So
Uppers, add
fast.
this to your performance improvement plan. Come on, guys. Let's
Oh.
One is really cool.
Ah.
There's one I remember that I wrote that I did not put in.
Okay.
There's this so in this bay in the South Pole of Mars, there's this big bay that whenever the Martian version of the Leviathan, I forgot what it was technically called, but whenever this kind of beast, imagine like a great white shark on crack, comes in to the bay, they shut off the bay with chains, and all the youngsters who are not yet blooded run out, and they basically have a series of stilts that are built out across the bay, and they all stand on stilts, and then they'll one by one jump in to try to kill the beast. But one will like raise his flag, and then it'll be like his turn. And so then, if the person before him fails, he gets to jump in and try to kill the beast. And so they'll one by one jump in. So you just see these people on stilts jumping in to try to kill this beast, this monster. And so like I had that written in. Like, I had that written into like God. I think that was written into Morning Star, and but that was a really fun one because I was just thinking like what it would be like to be freezing and like just in the loincloth on that stilt with just a spear waiting to go take on a great white that your buddy just died trying to kill. That was fun.
This is amazing. I in my head now we're slowly developing a book. It's called The Offcuts, and it's just all of these excerpts of like crazy weird back lore that's like organized by
Weird.
color or by like history, but like just like little snippets.
This is great. This is great potential Patreon
So
content,
good.
by the by.
Coppers, are you taking notes of these here, please?
You guys got to start doing some more crazy shit.
Yeah.
I guess that's also kind of a Pierce thing. Anyway, yeah. So let's get down to it, people. I want to see some fucking blood.
Left-handed.
Left-handed. You've met your competitors, Pixies. Let's see how they take each other apart. Pierce, you're going to be rolling for Nupster and the Greys. Joel, wrap your horrible fingers around the die for Jenna and the Obsidians. Let's see what's inside these worthies. That's a 5. And 13.1 to Obsidian.
20.
A natural 20 and a 15.2 to the Greys.
Brawler Legacy Hauler.
18.
18 versus 16.
18.
0.3 goes to the Obsidians.
Oh no, my dice! I threw it in tantrum. Hold on.
It's a 13 points.
17.
And it's 17. Holy shit, we're so close, people. It's neck and neck and neck and neck. I guess no, it's only 2 necks, but still, it's a very necky thing. Gentlemen, roll once more.
Don't betray me,
All
left
right.
hand.
Come on, lefty. Let's
20,
get
nat
sinister
20.
with
20!
it. A natural 20, and the round goes to the Obsidians. Jenna, congratulations. You get to move on to the next round while you'll be facing the Violet Champion. Joel, congratulations to you as well for having finally won a match. It was bound to happen eventually.
Guys.
I feel so bad for everyone who came before.
I failed your loyalty. I failed your loyalty.
Delightful. All right.
Fodder of war, my friends. The fodder of war.
Fodder of war. It was a fair fight, Nupster, and you did your best, but you've been disemboweled by your better. In fact, it doesn't seem like there's much left of you for the Browns to even carry off. They scoop what was once your body into a mop bucket and feed it to the hogs at a nearby farm. The pigs will nourish your betters in the gold cast. And really, is this not the ultimate goal of every member in the society? Salutes and thank you from Escalates. This is going so fucking well, Howlers. I can feel your love and your excitement beaming through the tubes and signals of the system-wide communications network. Our next matchup is going to be the silver versus orange bracket. Let's meet our next competitors.
Victims.
The silvers are accountants, bred and trained for actuarial acuity and pecuniary prowess. Their whole lives revolve around managing and moving vast sums of currency between accounts, digital ledgers, piles of gold ingots, dark rooms illuminated only by the reflections off huge stacks of valuable materials. These are the things that please Scrounge, who claims to have begun his actuarial ascent at an obscenely young age. His devotion to the monetary arts earned him his position as champion of the Silvers. And now, the orange color cast. They're always covered in axle grease, wielding brushed steel tools whose purposes are obscure. The pockets of their dungarees are always stuffed with essential items for maintenance and repair of the society's many machines. These mechanical masterminds have elected Grizz as their champion for his exemplary work on space vehicles and devotion to quick problem solving, not to mention his sparkling personality. So, Mr. Phillips, I believe you have some fan-generated questions that you would like to ask of Mr. Brown here. I will allow you to get to it. Please, I think what we may do for the next couple of rounds here is actually we'll ask questions for the colors who are appearing first, those being red, violet, and brown in the next round, if that's okay with you two,
Yeah,
and the rest of you out there in Howler Land. Just in the interests of expedience.
Okay, but that's after this round.
Yes, we're
After
here.
this round, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, boss.
Yeah, this will be
And
the last
loser.
one where you have just go do the thing.
Where we have an unappeared. Yes, I got it. All right, we've got a question from the Silvers. My silver question is about the lives of a silver. Are there lots of silvers and silver children? Just like how the golds go to the institute, the pinks go to the gardens, and the blues go to flight school. Do the silvers have something similar?
Silvers have something similar. It's called destitution. Silvers are
Hey-o!
basically put out on their ass, and they're like generate. That's the test of silver. So basically, their passage is from 16 on. They are given nothing by their parents except the education they had. Legally, they're not allowed to inherit, and then have to go make their own money.
That's fucking wild. And like, is that written? I don't remember that being written in the book. So legally not allowed to inherit.
Yeah, I don't think it made it in. No, but
Yeah.
it's basically like, it's basically like
I'll fucking
it's the
figure
ultimate
it out.
test. Yeah. Well, I was creating like a similar thing, and I'm like, well, I guess why? Because the whole test is, can you actually rise amongst the silvers? Can you rise amongst all those things? It's basically you have to make it's by your bootstraps, by your origination. It's why the silvers, when they get to be powerful, are so fucking asshole with it.
Yeah.
But I also think it's kind of interesting because everyone else has these academies and stuff, and silvers is really, can you be resourceful enough to generate income?
Wow, talk about a cutthroat childhood. I mean, all of society is that way, but like,
Not until you're 16, then nothing legally, nothing.
wow. Jesus Christ. Well, okay, so I feel like this is a great follow-up question to that then. So, just like Tin Pot, Ruster, and Crow, what is or is there a derogatory name for silvers?
Oh man, sorting through the brain.
There doesn't have
No one I can think of off the top of the head. There
Yeah.
might be one, but I imagine it's much more. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I don't want to make one up that I don't remember.
Yeah.
Silver itself is a curse word in the Red Rising world.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. It's like you're the moneyed elite. Well, okay, so that was sort of like a two-part question for one person. So, Carl, do I have time to do one more silver question, or should I move on? Tell me, boss.
Oh, you're good. Actually, no. Let's go to the next one.
Okay.
And then should the silvers advance to the semi-final bout?
All right, we
We'll address
have
that problem there.
We will. All right. So next up, we have the oranges, and I would like to note that in my massive lists of questions that I have here, these papers that I've been waving around in the side over here, oranges are the most succinct in their questions, which is very on point. They are the only colors whose questions are all a single line and a single fucking sentence. So thank you, oranges, for being engineers and for being concrete in your questions.
And thank you to our
Question.
Proctor Crescent, who I think organized that
Yeah.
list, as also is
It's just
proctoring
not-
our
it-
Twitch tonight.
it's
Thanks,
the-
Crescent.
Howler Crescent.
So on brand. It's fucking brilliant. All right. So oranges. What are the naming conventions of the orange genus? Maybe this is going to be too succinct, Crescent.
Might be too succinct.
The naming conventions. I mean, I would assume having to do with like how they name their children.
I think
I mean,
they
like,
mean
how
like
they-
the particle in between the first name and the last name.
Ah, like
'Cause they're-
ow, yeah.
Yeah, they don't get one because they're not high enough color.
Okay.
All right.
So there just are none. It's just your first and last name.
They sometimes get a third name based on the guild they're in. So
Yeah.
what's much more important to them than family is guild. So the oranges have different types of engineering guilds.
Yeah.
So I think that would be based on this is really pulling the dusty manuscripts. They'd have different engineering guilds on different planets, but I imagine the guilds were far more important in the orange upbringing simply because it kind of like excited my brain to think of them as much more interested in people that could build war machines, or the people that were working on particle cannons, etc. So different fields have different guilds. So in terms of naming conventions themselves, they don't have one.
Well, this is a slight follow-up and very Joel personalized question because I'm a Violet after all. My grandfather's last name is Rodermacher. Is there any possibility, which means wheelmaker in German, which you should know because I know you studied German, Pierce. Is there any chance that oranges could have names based on things that they made or created? Is that like a thing that could exist in the orange world, or am I just slightly tipsy and going out on a limb?
I mean, thank you for the idea. Sure.
Okay. All right. Question number 2 from the oranges. What are the subsects of oranges?
These are so specific.
I know, they're great.
I don't have this in my head. Some of this stuff's too deep. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. And then are there any schools? I mean, you talked about the guilds for oranges. I'm assuming that would be connected, but are there specific schools like the Fulgur Bellator for oranges?
So there's certain schools, like Mercury is a hotbed for oranges because of the Vodum family being a craftsman family, the symbol being the hammer. And so, for instance, artificers is like the top rung. They're like the carvers of the oranges. Then there's the general field oranges, who are kind of like imagine the Swiss Army knife of mechanics, who are meant to be able to fix multiple machines. You also have the oranges, who are kind of like valets, and the valet oranges. So I don't have names for all these things, but the valet oranges are the ones that take care and kit up the armor. So they're like blacksmith oranges. And so orange it's been fun to come up with subclasses for, but that's still in a document somewhere that I've never actually codified. Yeah. At the same time, like I also wanted to like make famous blades and then have the blades name and have certain certain people, certain oranges have made those blades. And
Really?
yeah, exactly. And so for that to be part, and that's something I'm trying to build into Red God currently. I guess that's why I answered so succinctly, because I haven't figured it out yet. But artificers are the top rung. And so this is something that would be like really lovely if I had a lot of free time and just built out the 6 subclasses of orange, right? Which we will do.
So I feel like I need to do like one follow-up question for my own brain for that, because we asked you a bunch of specific questions you didn't have things in your head for. So follow-up question from me. I've always wondered
The thing is, these
Whereas-
things are sometimes created, but like think about I've been with this for 11 years. Some of it is just forgotten.
Oh, totally, and like I think that's totally reasonable. So I just want to ask, for the sake of the oranges, one more question here that I think you probably will have an interesting answer to. So, Orestes, a master maker, in my head, when I think about him, I think about sort of a Leonardo da Vinci kind of character. He's like a creator that's also sort of an artist as well as an engineer. And so there's this weird overlap in my head between Violet and Orange in, him as a character. So, can you think of any like crossover, like Violet Orange crossovers or conflicts, or I don't know, that space where like Violet and Orange meet as like a creative person who's also an engineer? Spin off
Well,
on
you'll
that.
see this in different colors. Like carvers, for instance, are a cross between violet and yellow. Really, they're not codified as such, but carvers are using bioengineering and also the artistry. I mean, the artistry side, the violet side, they're much more yellows in terms of what they actually know, but they're still within they stay within their classification. Master makers are the same way. They are like Leonardo da Vinci and coming up with something. They have to master many disciplines. But at the same time, I think that those top tiers in any of the colors are basically crossover to a different color, because it's part of the concept of why the color system is innately flawed, is because not one of us is just our color, right? And so you have to borrow from the other disciplines.
And yet, I was often called a master maker under the breath of so many of my teachers in elementary and middle school. So, great answers. Some amazing fucking questions from the Discord folks. Let's see some numbers, baby. I am here for guts. All right. Roll them first. Mr. Brown, you're going to be rolling for the silvers. Mr. Phillips, you will be rolling for the oranges, those being Scrounge and Grizz, respectively. Gentlemen, do your worst or your best, depending on your metric.
Grizz, this is for you.
10.
8.
8.
Shit.
Sorry, Grizz.
Start.
First point
That's a good
goes
start.
to the slivers.
18.
18.
4.
This is not looking good for you guys, Orange. Really, really sorry about this so far. However, there's still time for it to come back. Mr. Phillips and Mr. Brown, in your own time, gentlemen, blow on it. That's a 4 for the oranges.
Pierce, you gotta blow on
4,
dice.
4.
What did you get, Joel?
I got a 4 as well.
Holy shit! Roll again, gents. That's a tie.
17.
13.1 to the oranges. There's still time for this to go. It could go either way at this point.
14.
All right, all right. Let's roll them again just in case, but there's not really any reason to. It's all over but the crying, people.
Silvers would say it's simple math.
17. Beautiful 17 when it didn't matter.
No, it didn't matter. That was a perfect 17, Joel. So congratulations. Congratulations, Scrounge. You are moving on to the next round where you'll be facing the brown champion. But Grizz, my dear friend, I don't know if you ever took the time to wonder what your arteries looked like, but you might want to have a look down at your shattered body while your brain still has enough oxygen to function. They're surprisingly pretty, like red trees against the scuffed gray metal of the arena floor. We at Lit Escalates salute you and your surprisingly vividly hued viscera. What an amazing contest this has already been! I am like on the edge of my seat here, people. I can barely contain it. Where am I going to go from here? So, unless there's any other business that Joel and Pierce have to address with the first round of competition, we can move on to the second heat. Gentlemen, are you prepared for this?
I do have one motion that I need to bring to the voting table. I, as a very unlucky Violet, would like to nominate Molly, our master of merchandise, to roll for me for the remainder of this time, because I'm an unlucky fuck, and I need...
Go get Molly. I'm going to get a beer, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. Those of you who are not yet familiar with Molly's contributions to Lit Escalates are actually familiar with all of Molly's contributions to Lit Escalates. They are the CEO and the linchpin, without whom this entire enterprise would just careen off the side of the cart that it is. This is a bad metaphor, but bear with me.
I thought you were gonna go with Cliff, but it was good. This was good. I like where we're going, and it's
Yeah, but
very
you don't need a linchpin for a cliff though. The cliff
Axel,
is already
perhaps?
there. That's
Yeah.
complete.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was really good.
It was
Yes,
okay.
Molly runs all of our merchandising operations behind the scenes. So Molly is actually wearing the hat that I was wearing, which you shall see this fall. We're about to drop our Howler Legion hats. Molly has also been working with manufacturers in far, far away because no one in the States does this. Sadly, we have been working for 3 years, and it wasn't until Molly came on board that we were able to make this happen on Color Sigil temporary tattoos, which shall be dropped in time for Halloween. So lots of things in the works, and Molly runs everything, and my artist brain cannot keep up with all the things in Molly's incredible merchandising brain. So thank Molly for all of that. And also, hopefully, Molly is luckier at throwing fucking dice than I am because I'm terrible at it.
If you
All right,
ever
moving on,
wondered
Carl.
to yourself, just one more Molly hype up. If you ever wondered to yourself, who lifted 14,000 pounds of books 3 times? It was Molly. Molly lifted 14,000 pounds of books 3 times.
You
Molly is
goddamn
the
right it
strongest
was.
person alive.
Just so.
And it was all in training for this moment.
Also, and because we're doing
You're to
shout-outs
face Molly
now,
in the
if you've ever wondered who's replied to any email you've ever sent, it was Emily.
Just so. Just so.
That's true. If you ever send an email and then you send another email and you say, Emily told me, you're just talking to me again. It's still me.
Don't tell anyone. We'd like to appear as a larger operation than we are.
This is.
I'll
pretty
always
much
email
it.
you back.
There's a few part-timers around here, but this is the core crew, more or less. I think, right? Am I leaving somebody out?
This is a core crew. This is a core
Yeah.
crew. Yeah.
I don't want to feel like
We have
everybody
a
feels like
packing
they're left
crew
out
and so on, but yeah, this is the folks who are on all of the semi-annual meetings that we pretend to have to be organized, which Molly is always trying to.
They're like sometimes they're quarterly. That's delightful. I always love going over to your house.
How long have we had the repeating quarterly meeting that no one's managed to get off the calendar that we haven't had in it, like 3 years? Has it been 3 years?
It's
Let's
been about 3
time.
years. Yeah,
Not
we
talk
did
about
that
our
once.
meetings because
Anyway, we're not talking about
they make
meetings.
me
We're
cry.
talking about color battle. Color battle.
We're here for murder, people. So let's move on. The next matchup is going to be Chifo, the green champion, a delightful matchup against the red champion. The green champion was Chifo, of course, the victor of the first bout that we had this evening. About whom more in just a moment. Champion. The Reds in the society are the lowest color, kept literally in the dark below Mars's surface. They're tasked with some of the most menial and dangerous jobs in the society, mining for helium-3 and working in factories. These iron-blooded workers have selected Marissa, an ocean diver tasked with recovering wrecked boats and other marine treasures from the floor of the deep. Please, a massive round of sound for Marissa coming in to represent the red color cast. And returning to the battlegrounds is fan favorite Gifo, whose inestimable skills made them victorious in the very first match this evening. Mr. Phillips.
I didn't want to say this out loud, but my intrusive thoughts won. It could have also been the fact that they were matched up against my dice roll. So sorry to their opponent.
Shut your fucking face. Ask the man the questions.
On to the questions. We have 2 questions for the Reds because we have not seen the Reds yet. Regarding the first Reds, Pierce, what was their culture and belief system look like? I feel like you've talked about this in the books a bit, but expand on it. What was the early Reds' culture and belief system?
Or when the society in the initial stages before it really became codified by the color system, looking for volunteers to mine Mars, they found the most willing participants and most willing volunteers in the Irish, mostly because the UK got nuked in World War III. And it forced the radiation fallout, forced the Irish to become a migratory workforce, much like they were in the early aughts of America. And so traditionally, the first Reds were Irish of descent, and so their beliefs would have carried over, but when religion was outlawed by the Golds, many of their traditions would have been curbed. I find that Red culture 700 years later is basically a mutation of that without religion. You have some similar dialogue or dialect, and you have some of the visions of the Vale, which is based on Ireland. And so the Reds, for me, have always had that kind of like Irish brogue to them.
I love that. I love
that's going to be an interesting thing for me voicing the rest of this month.
It's why.
Okay, one more question from the Reds.
Was the narrator for Darrow.
What's that?
It's why Tim Gerard Reynolds, an Irishman, was the narrator for Darrow action.
All right.
God bless his beautiful Irish brogue. God bless it. All right, we have another question from the Reds. What does a Red society look like if the Rising succeeds? Some traditions and beliefs having been formed from lies. What's next for the Reds of the New Republic? I feel like this is Lyria's character in a nutshell, but continue.
It's a huge question because there's billions of Reds, so it's not all going the same. In fact, if the Rising succeeds, then more so won't be Red culture. It'll be the culture of wherever they are geographically, because that will hopefully be more indicative of their future than their color.
But I feel like, because I want to just dig into that a little bit, like one of my favorite parts about the second trilogy and now quadrilogy, when I first read the first book in that series, was you really getting into this question of like what happens if you win the Rising, like how, because there are no systems in place, nothing is fair, you don't have any fucking money, you're in a like camp, there are people who are running your fucking camp that like are a Red who are murdering you for money or whatever, like the real world shit that happens after a war is over, when there is a system in place that the Golds are saying is a good system because it stops chaos. Like, so I don't know. I feel like I want to make you expand on that a little bit because I know you have more thoughts because you wrote them.
I was trying to be. I
know you are, but I'm going to make you talk more. Keep going.
Their culture will disintegrate unless they get education. The only way that they will be able to retain any of their solidarity and also the ability to keep what they are is by being relevant in the world that exists past the mines. And so some of that is been kept from them because of the unfairness of the Silvers taking advantage of doing buying their mines up and cutting them out of the proceeds. Some of that has been they just don't have the skill sets required to function within the Republic because they're general labor. Their skills are highly refined. They are it takes a skill set to do what they do, but no one wants to do what they do because what they do can be done by machines. So they'll then have to become relevant by getting education in other sectors of society. So what I would see is, for instance, if the Rising were successful, then what would need to be implemented was mass education and people being able to choose what vocation they wanted to pursue. And that would have to be, in part subsidized by whatever government wins. Otherwise, you're going to have an entire cast of people that are left behind for hundreds of years. Because the problem with the unbridled free market within the Republic was simply that, golds are still golds and silvers are still silvers. They are better in certain ways. Doesn't mean they're more entitled to life and pursuit of happiness, so to speak, but it does mean that they are better situated to take advantage of a free market, right? The survival of the fittest mentality. So you have to figure out some way of balancing that. And the only way of balancing things I've ever seen in history is education. Particularly finding skills and vocation and expanding vocations and getting rid of just the idea that they're, menial laborers. So for me, it's either that or bust,
Yeah. Thank you. I knew you had an incredible answer to that question, and I'm glad I got to hear it. That was fabulous. All right, we've got some dice rolling to do. Carl, you want to introduce folks?
I already did. However,
It's
so-
time to roll, and I, as promised, am handing over the die because my unlucky hands should never touch one
Look at
again.
Molly. You're about to say
you
it's
should
not
also-
Joel. It's these
you
magic
should also
hands.
wash those. Molly, your your magic hands will be rolling for the Reds and for Melissa. Howler
I
one.
don't get the
Backwards.
Reds. I don't get the
Backwards.
Reds.
Yeah, we're going backwards. Is that backwards?
Yes.
I want the Reds.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Oh, right. Wait, okay, so I'm doing the right thing then. Yeah.
Pierce is rolling for the Reds, and
All
Molly
right,
is
Pierce, you're rolling for the Reds. Molly, you're gonna roll for Gipo and the Greenos. Friends, please let the dice hit the felt.
17.
18.
Oh, how the
No!
turntable. Yeah, all right, 18. 18,
Sorry, why?
18 to the Greens.
17!
Holy shit! This is what a reversal of fortune. It was actually Joel the whole time. Let's roll it again, friends. We'll see what this night has in store. 18 versus 9. It looks like. All right, so
We're coming back, Reds. We're coming back.
yeah, that's 1 point for the Reds. That's versus 2 for the Greens. Let's make it happen, people.
5.
2!
Oof. Oof a doof. That's 2 points. It's neck and neck again.
Touch the goddamn dice.
Come on, Reds. Come on, Reds. Come on, Reds.
What is that, P?
2.
2 for Molly. Pierce? I couldn't read what your thing was.
That is a 16.
God damn. All right, the round goes to the Reds. Congratulations.
Good rolling. Thank you.
That's right.
Congratulations, Marissa.
Happy
You
word.
are moving on to the next tier of competition where you'll be facing off with yet another champion. And, my dear sweet Gifo, you are scattered in little red piles all around the arena. The Browns work to scrub the floor between the bouts using mops and shovels to corral the unwieldy pieces that once constituted your noble champion's coil. Gifo, you fought bravely, and we hope that in the next world you are still proud of the effort you put forth here tonight. Salutes and best wishes from Lit Escalates, sir. Never a truer champion.
You tried.
Wouldn't have felt good if you beat the Reds. You wouldn't have felt good.
Yeah, we all would have felt bad about it. It's not
I would have
called
felt good
green
winning at anything at
Yeah.
this point in the evening, Pierce. Anything.
That lost.
No.
Yeah,
The
you-
orange question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you?
Answering the orange question. No, I lost one round. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Really,
true.
though, we're all winners here, are we not? That we're getting to enjoy each other's company and the company of the legions of adoring fans out there in Howler space. So, thank you all for being here. However, the second tier of competition is off to just a great fucking start. Joel, Pierce, let's get ready to welcome back our yellow champion, Stephanie, who's returning once more to the abattoir.
The abattoir.
The Abattoir Blues, she beat the odds in the last tier and has earned the blood-soaked right to compete once again. Their opponent here will be none other than Mean Bean, the blue champion who sliced through the first bout with aplomb. If I recall correctly, we're holding off on doing any questions for the colors that are returning on this round. However, the next round, the semifinals, that'll
Semifinals?
be-
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna bring those back in the semifinals. You will ask questions about the Violets and the Browns, however, and that's where we're gonna go. That's how it's gonna be. So I'm on the edge of my seat. This
Do I dare roll again? Is a question. Do I have to? So much fucking pressure.
You're running out of people, Joel.
All right, the people have spoken. The people being Pierce. Okay.
All right.
All right. So
It's happening. Hold on just a second. I have to remember who's rolling for what. This actually got revised just now.
Pierce will be rolling for yellow, and
Thank you.
Joel will be rolling for blue.
For blue. That is correct. All right.
really, I love how when your voice just sort of came on, it was a little bit like an angel from on above. It even had the right tone of sort of like endless empathetic patience with these chaotic mortals down below. So thank you for letting us know.
It was a very like gypsy on MST3K kind of thing.
Have you
It
ever
was,
seen
yes,
that
it was.
animation
Like
of
Big Brother, Big Sister.
a duck swimming where they look very beautiful and serene and then they're frantically paddling? That's me. That's me right now. Did you know
You look
that
beautiful and serene.
every single time we transfer a category, I have to make sure I pick the right buttons? I've definitely never made a mistake. Definitely nobody in the chat has noticed a mistake. Who makes a competition with 13 categories? That's crazy. But we got it.
However, let's not.
I'm ready to fuck
Let's
some
not
blues.
show our ass any more than we personally have to. So
Blues, are you with me?
who's
Also,
got
how
the
fucking
blues?
cool do these tattoos look, by the
They're
way?
pretty sick. They're pretty sick.
Whoa.
Nice.
Whoa. Straight to jail.
All right, gents. Fold them down and roll them up. First roll. Joel for the blues, Pierce for the yellows. Let's see them.
Oh.
What was that?
9.
Pierce, what'd you get?
12.
12. 12-9. First point goes to the yellows. All right, let's see if this can break the thing. That's 10 for Pierce.
5.
And a 5 for Joel. Second point going to the yellows. Things are not looking good for you over there, Nean Bean. Bless your heart. Gentlemen, one more time.
7.
3 versus 7. All right. 1 point to Nean Bean and the Blues. They're calling again. Let's do it.
10.
4 versus 10. Oh my God. Who could have possibly foreseen that Joel, rolling for the Blues, would have come back from behind the same way that he has every time that it's been very, very close, like it is now? That's a 12 for Pierce.
12 for. I gotta beat a 12.
You got to beat a 12.
Blues. This is for you.
Toss salads and scrambled eggs.
What?
The curse remains unbroken.
Damn it.
Oh,
what,
man.
what a
I laughed
beautiful
so hard it
moment.
lagged. I laughed so hard the
Nean
internet cut
Bean.
out.
Nean beat up. I
Mean
tried.
Bean.
I
Well,
tried.
okay.
Felt like
Stephanie,
I had him in our sights.
This is
it was right there. You had the reticule on them and everything, but you froze at the last minute. But congratulations to Stephanie Way Out, the champion of yellow, who is advancing on to the next round where they will compete against Marissa of the Reds. Is that correct? Yeah, great. Love that for me. And then
Next
Yeah,
up, Violet versus Obsidian.
hold on
Violet
just a
versus
moment. I
Obsidian.
have some really grim dark text to read here. Nean Bean, as your sight fails you, you see the satisfied smirk on the face of your opponent, and with your last breath, you curse their name and the names of their forebears, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on until the last star in the galaxy goes supernova and winks unceremoniously from existence. Who knew that you had such lung capacity? Lit Escalates salutes and thanks you and yours. Moving right along, our next bout will feature the debut of an all-new competitor from the Violet Color cast. We're excited for you all out there to meet them. And let's do that shit right now. Why not? So the Violets, consummate artisans whose nimble fingers excavate the unseen forms of sculptures in marble, coax sweet sounds from still strings, fashion formidable apparel from lifeless cloth. Representing this most creative cast is Backstitch, whose impressive array of talents earned the awe and admiration of her fellows. And then
Including
returning to the killing floor is Jenna, the able Obsidian champion whose hands sifted the guts of her opponent in the Gray versus Obsidian match in the last tier of the competition. Goodness gracious, gentlemen, do you have any questions in your
I
corner,
do.
presently,
Well, we
Joel
have not
or
seen
Pierce,
violets
about
yet, but
violets?
I have some questions about violets. As a violet myself, I have many questions about violets. Pierce, are
Keep
you
it to
ready?
2. Yes.
Here we go.
However, before we get to that question, those many questions, Carl, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So do I'm feeling a little conflicted right now because I've currently lost almost every role I've
Mhm.
done except for when I represented Obsidians.
Hmm.
However, I'm a violet. Am I representing in the next dice roll violets or obsidians? I just feel like I need to prepare myself emotionally for what's going to happen because either way I feel very very connected to the fact that I've only brought one color through successfully in this dice roll so
You
far. I am
should
a
take the
violet.
violets.
I don't want to
Yeah.
take the violets. That's how I'm feeling
I think
probability wise.
I
I don't
speak for
want to
your
be a
sake.
violet, but I do want to be a violet because I am a violet. So
Works, but
You could roll for it.
you're
Yeah, you could roll for it.
superstitious
Right
right
now.
I need someone else to tell me the fucking rules. I cannot make this decision.
Okay, hold on a second.
now.
I'm looking
I
for.
want violet.
I'm looking for
I'm
a
violet.
two-sided die here.
Well,
Which is
if
a coin.
Pierce says he wants Violet, then we're gonna give Pierce Violet.
All right.
Should we ask
Give
the
the man his
violets in the
violet.
chat?
Don't,
Should we
unless you
ask the
want
violets
violet,
in the
Joel.
chat? Because I feel like there's a continuity here
Let
of
the
me
violets
rolling
decide.
obsidian. I brought them
Let's
through
decide.
one, and I'm feeling connected to that dice. If I was a gambling man, which I'm not for many very apparent reasons, I
All right.
would roll for
So,
obsidian again. I'm
Are we
feeling good
putting
about it.
this to a polis,
The
or
mini
are we
decide.
allowing me to roll for it?
I think a poll. It must be a poll.
Sure, we can do it.
Let's
All
say the
right.
masses.
Yeah.
You
Skipper.
have 30 seconds to respond.
Skipper and Crescent, you are on deck. Let us know what the masses say. Which category,
Can answer
color
a question,
should...
Joel.
All right, and in the meantime, while
Joel,
we
roll for it.
listen to the messages on that section, because there is a bit of a delay here, I've got a
Excellent.
question for Pierce about the violets. And it's interesting seeing the patterns come out here and about all the questions. There's a lot of questions, obviously, about internal color hierarchies and colors that you haven't seen that yet. So this is the same. Do violets have any sort of internal hierarchy? I.e., what is an elite violet called in the vein of a master maker?
I mean, a carver is probably the most elite of the violets. There's
Mhm.
also violets that basically design experiences, who craft like artistic experiences, which would be also a combination of the disciplines. But imagine they were the ones who throw the parties. They're the ones that stage everything. They're the ones that set everything. And then beneath that, you have individual performers. Performers can, of course, be good enough that they do rise to the fame of a great carver, but performers are far more common. So that would be actors, that would be violinists, etc. But Apollonius, for instance, is a great fan of many of the violet actors and performers. But he's mostly a fan of the 10-digit finger era of playing, because a lot of the violet players have more fingers than the Homo sapiens did. But the violets have a very kind of nuanced system that's much more based on, like, how to say it. If you're good enough at your art, that you can transcend. It's probably the most flexible system because they're all drugged out as kids. They're not really great at playing politics with each other. They're not great at being codified. They're mostly subsisting off of a Medici like system. So they have a patron, and the patron takes care of them. Mickey was fucking too crazy to have a patron because everyone was afraid that they would get, indicted by the Board of Quality Control and be responsible for his crimes. So Mickey was black market, even great at what he did. But Mickey got blacklisted, so to speak, because he was playing too close to, crossing species and stuff. So but the carvers, for instance, are so important to the Red Rising world, and there's a reason they're the most important violet, because they're the ones that populated the ecosystems of the golds with tons of different types of animals, flora and fauna, right? So the flora was designed mostly by the browns, by the botanists, but the fauna was, the flora was, yeah. But then the animals were designed by the violets, and so they had to go into systems, which then a copper administrator would then try to make sure that the ecosystem actually worked. So there's a lot of play back and forth between the systems. And some of my favorite things are seeing how ecosystems are formed. I mean, you find those articles online, and you're like, God damn, And these guys are trying to do that 1,000,000, 2,000,000 years of evolution within, or even more than that in some cases, within, a couple 100-year framework. So there's ecosystems that collapse that ruin an entire carver's reputation because he created like something like a ghost raptor, which is far too much like the alpha predator and just eats everything it wants. And so then they phase out that carver, even though he's famous for having created this or she's famous for having created the animal. So the carvers are basically, the violets are basically more so judged by whether their work endures.
It's
Fun and fluid. And this is, and to be honest, I'm getting inspired by a lot of these questions because I didn't know people were so fascinated with the hierarchies within the hierarchies. And so it'd be fun to codify it all because there's a lot of different. The problem is like I came up with like 7 different names for each sometimes of the subcategories and never decided on a name. So the setter, the person who sets experiences, I never finalized the name. So it'd be fun to like finalize all that stuff and get it codified. I just didn't think it was that interesting. I mean, I thought it was interesting. I just didn't know people were interested as much. So that's fun to know.
like that's like as a violet, the ultimate sort of compliment. You're like, oh, this weird thing that I thought was interesting turns out was interesting for other people too.
The ultimate compliment, right? And you're like, oh, I'm kind of noticing a pattern here of like really curiosity, and I'm like, I didn't realize that next layer was interesting. So cool.
Well, Adam, I feel
This
like
stuff
that
I'm
really
working
speaks.
on, and I'm like, this is the stuff I'm like working on, kind of like your doodle books, Joel. You didn't realize your doodles were that interesting, and then you're like, but I'd rather be doodling. Like sometimes that's more fun than putting words on the page.
I'm gonna maybe have to hold you to that, my friend, because
I think we
I can
need
see a
that.
publication in the works. I can indeed. All right, we have one more question from the violets. What's the elemental chemical symbol associated with violet? With violet, equivalent of ow for or T for the ow for the gold or T for the grays.
There, yeah, it's not.
There is no. They're too low of a color.
Considering that they're too low of a color, but then the grays get it because it's the gold's like sucking up to the grays because the grays are important, right? The grays are the thin line between the mid colors and the low colors, and so the grays get it because it's like it's a way of making them feel included. So that's my headcanon for it. If the violets were to get one, it'd be just the most temperamental chemical.
Mm-hmm.
There is no one for them. I've never created one for them. It's like they're known usually by one name.
Sure, that makes sense.
That absolutely makes sense. Yeah. So Carl,
like,
I do get to ask.
I always thought it was so bad. I always thought it was so badass how like pop stars would go by one name, like Madonna. I'm like, that's so cool. And so it's like Mickey, but then Mickey the Carver because they make themselves famous. Their families don't matter.
I'm trying not to think about how I go by 3 names and what that means.
Henceforth, we shall call him Joel in all caps.
Yeah,
actually,
it's an acronym.
So backstory for any of you who are
only
even
enough.
I did not purposely choose my middle name as my moniker. There was a bad cowboy painter named Joel Phillips who had joelphillips.com when I first graduated and tried to make a website. So I spent the first 5 years of my art career going by Joel Daniel Phillips, which prior to that, the only time I'd ever been called Joel Daniel was when I was in trouble with my mother. And so I would go to an art show, and somebody who only knew me in the art world would be like, Joel Daniel Phillips. And I'd be like, fuck, what did I do? For like 5 years this happened. And now I'm proud to say that my own Google search terms, you don't find Joel Phillips for like 12 pages. And Joel Daniel Phillips has far eclipsed Joel Phillips to the point where I've been considering removing my name again. And now I don't know because it's a tough question. So we have a question from the Obsidians, however, and I'm trying to find my favorite question on this list, and it's not on this list, so I'm going to insert my favorite question, which I know came up in the chat. Pierce, do Obsidians have 2 penises?
Penises?
Yeah.
Do they?
They have more than one.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Why would you think they would? Did I put that in the text?
I don't know. This just came up a lot in the chat.
out here. I don't know why you would think they would have two penises.
Multiple fingers? Why would they perhaps? They might have more other appendages?
Why not?
One might ask first, why do they have extra eyes? Do they have extra ears? But you guys go for penises. I think that says a lot about the obsidian subclass.
Pierce, have you ever been on the internet?
It's all dicks, like wall to wall, brother.
But not right now.
I feel like if they've
So
I feel
Pierce
like
has
these
very
Syrians have two
adroitly.
penises. I'm ending this debate here. They do not have penises.
They don't have penises at all.
It is canon. They do not have two
Yes,
penises. Okay.
Oh, they don't
So I
have
feel
two
like
penises.
that are
Okay.
proportionate to their
in-
stature.
Okay. So just
Um,
enormous.
All right, I'm going to ask a follow-up question real quick, and this should be brief. Is there a
Huge,
difference
pendulous
between...
members.
Carl, shut up.
The two cocks. I was about to introduce the Stain Tu Dong Kong. He's a terrific warrior. Tu Dong Kong. He will. Never mind. I'm gonna stop because I'll offend.
Yeah,
keep
you
going.
should drop this.
Straight to
Yeah,
jail.
Yep. Don't keep this
Okay,
recorded.
follow-up
Keep
question,
going.
and this is very a different kind of question. Is there a difference between the way of stains and the passage of the stains? Or is it someone being very particular and you're going to be annoyed?
So much. I mean, it fluctuates based on planet, and it's kind of the same thing. The passage of stains, basically, like it could be me retconning it, in a way, and forgetting what the original one I said was. But for me, the actual explanation is it's different on different planets, and also like so Volga's what Volga did on Europa is one method of becoming stained. The other method of becoming stained is actually following this route through Mars, in which you actually have to go there geographically to partake in it. And so, the way of counting it would be like, if you can't get to that route, you do this way, and kill all 15 colors.
Makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Difference,
buy it.
really. Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure. We'll just
that's a
buy
good-
that, right? Yeah. But I can
purchased-
admit that one.
purchased
That
in
one
full.
would be me retconning it in the moment, and I've seen that before. And I'm like,
I swallowed it, hook, line, and sinker. So we're ready to rumble.
Yeah, that's great.
Actually,
thank you for asking me about a retcon.
Nice to roll, and I have the question has not been answered. Am I rolling for obsidians or violets? What did the people say?
By democratic vote in an extremely scientific system, Pierce is going to be rolling for violet. Joel, you will be rolling for obsidians, who have a single member each.
One single member.
One single member, but it's enormous. So the heat
Pierce, what did you roll?
continues to rise here in the arena as the baying crowds call out for more blood. Natural 20 from Pierce. A natural 3, maybe? Three from Joel. Things are not looking good for the Obsidians.
19. Eat it.
19 for Mr.
What do you get?
Mr.
19.
19
All right.
V5.
All
All
right.
right. That's the
All right.
second
All right.
one
Let's go,
going to the
Carvers.
Obsidians.
6.
15.
Ooh.
Oh, my violet heart is bleeding.
17.
4.
All right. Neck and neck once again.
2-2. This dice roll shall fight it all.
11.
11.
Oh my god.
11.
Probability is against me. 8.
Ooh.
Victory! Victory!
So,
I knew it! Obsidian's fall.
congratulations. You are moving on to the semifinals where you'll be facing off with the next champion. And Jenna, it is actually pretty surprising how together your body is right now, given the pummeling that you have just received. You're only short a couple of fingers and a foot, but due to massive internal hemorrhaging, your organs are just not pulling their weight any longer. You collapse to the floor like a sack of potatoes, and as the Browns load your malfunctioning body on the stretcher, you catch the eye of your opponent and attempt to flash them a thumbs up before realizing that you no longer possess the requisite digit. You carried this disappointment with you into the afterlife, along with tremendous honor and pride at your performance this evening. 1,000 salutes and plaudits from all of us here at Lit Escalates to you, Jenna, and angels sing thee to thy rest. All right, fellas, next to plead for your pleasure will be the brown champion who'll be facing off against the silver victor from the previous round of competition. Let's meet these fellas before we engage in this orgy of bodily harm. So the brown color cast, as we know, is devoted to service, doing the menial and sometimes dirty jobs of domestic labor, nannies, caretakers, farmers, and especially janitors, as we've seen after each of these frankly disturbingly violent bouts. Chief among them is their champion Rance, whose devotion to service and steadfast support of our Patreon is exemplary amongst all Browns. And then returning to the killing fields, after a restorative break, is Scrounge, whose performance in the last bout left his opponent with uncomfortable new knowledge of their circulatory system. This silver champion is back with a newfound lust for blood, but before we address that particular lust, Joel, you got some fan questions for Howler 1, right?
Yes, I do. I do. We haven't talked about Browns yet. Are you ready to talk about Browns, Mr.
I'm
Brown?
ready to talk about Browns. Yeah, let's go.
I'm ready to talk about Browns.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Question number 1 from the Browns. What is the per capita population of Browns? This is a great question. And are there tiered Browns, much like pinks of the Rose Garden? So the same question as almost everyone's asked, like, are there tiers? What's the sort of subcaste system?
You really should have done some prep work on this, yeah.
This one's really interesting. Like, I've always also wondered this, like, what's the average, out of the average 35, books in the solar system, how many are Browns? Or I guess we should probably get a multiple 14 for that, but
it's a guesstimation because I haven't done a census recently, but I'd say like 5 Browns per 100. I'd say 5 Browns.
Out of 5 Browns out of 100. Out of 100, great. Yeah.
These are very efficient janitors. I'll have you know.
Yeah.
But also, let us not look down too sharply at the Browns. The Browns are also the botanists of the rim. So there is a difference between Browns of the rim and Browns of the core. And so this kind of goes to the hierarchy question. The botanists of the rim are extremely well regarded, and they're the ones that can that maintain the plants and also crossbreed the plants in order to create new species of plants, which has been key to the rim independence for a long time, and are very valued respectively by the rim golds. And so they are much higher than their place on the pyramid. The botanists are much higher than their place in the pyramid would lead you to believe. And so that's my favorite thing about the Browns are kind of my Swiss Army knife of colors. They kind of fill a lot of the roles that fall in the in-between. Part of it started because I put the Browns as the janitors because it was a joke on my last name. And so that was the whole reason the Brown cast was just as the janitorial staff and the ballets. But then I was like, we need to give the Browns some dignity. And then I thought that they should.
I don't know who said this. There's a joke from the chat that said growers are showers. I don't know who to credit for that. But
the growers, the growers are showers. They'll die with their plants. They are emotional in a way I can only wish to be. The growers, the botanists, they're great people. You want to hang if you want to hang with anyone, you want to hang with the growers. They're the mortals the Ents would hang with. You know what I mean?
Well, and I did
question from the control booth here. Do Browns have 2 penises?
We've already answered this.
Jail.
No, they do not have 2 penises, but they're able to take care of multiple trunks at the same time.
Hey.
Oh my
God. Well played.
I mean, I personally, I felt like I really enjoyed at the end of Lightbringer. I mean, enjoyed maybe is a strong word because it's like the really sad part of the book. But and spoilers, I'm so sorry. There will be spoilers here. But the moment when Lysander he's gathering the bounty from the rim and he's taking the trees. And just like that, those are such prized possessions that they've taken so much time to cultivate and grow. It really stuck with me as a moment in those books. It was like, Yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I think that, as a violet, even though you represented the Obsidians, much to their demise, there's so much. Imagine the connection you have with a piece of art or something you build, and then imagine. And this is where I like why I've grown to like the Browns so much more. Is imagine then the generational connection they would have to trees that have been taken care of by their family, their fathers, their mothers before them for generations, and also knowing that their family is the one that created those trees, and yet they're sharing those bounty with other people, and they realize that that is key to their society. It's one of the healthiest relationships I think exists in the Red Rising world between work, and I think they're one of the only castes, the growers, the botanists. So the growers of the rim and the botanists of the core would not change jobs whatsoever.
Uh, well, so this is funny because I thought that chefs were going to come up, and maybe they will later in the questions. But what about chefs? I mean, we're talking about growing and food, so I mean, I feel like that's a pretty healthy relationship too. Like, so maybe you were writing in, so much of yourself, your own love. I know you love food, you love cooking. Is there a connection there?
I do love cooking. I do love food, and I do love that was weird. I do love gardening because I found that gardening is just a really nice way of taking yourself out of all the stress and
Hmm.
just seeing whether or not you can take care of something.
It's amazing. I love that. I love that we
The
have.
garden. Well, you and I have talked about this. You guys,
Yeah, we
you
have.
guys own.
I've been to your garden, and it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful space. I feel like
Come back to Tulsa. You'll have to ask my wife to give you a tour of the garden. It'll be
I'd love
delightful.
to. Yeah, I want a tomato from your garden. That'd be great.
We don't have
I
any,
just
but
invited myself. Oh,
I'll,
an onion,
You
whatever
have
you
a
have.
year to
Yeah.
prepare.
It's more
Pepper?
more decorative, but
Oh,
you'll see the thing. You'll see the thing.
I will admire your
um,
garden. How about that? How about that? You can have a tomato from mine.
Okay, that's
all
great.
right. So,
Yeah,
so we
send
have
me the
been
post.
answering. We need one more question, and I'm sorry, Carl, because I got so into the questions about Browns, I lost. Who's battling Browns right now?
It's
Wow. Pity
Scroungers of
them,
the
whoever they are.
Silvers.
Silvers. All right,
Silvers.
Silvers. So I
Oh.
gotta find. I've got to because I need a follow up question from the Silvers momentarily. I will find it. Okay, Silver question. What role does or can a silver play in war, aside from
Oh,
weapon and
huge.
financial donors? Being so high up in the hierarchy, do they have any physical capacity for battle?
They could, but what reason do they have? It's not part of their honor culture. They have no reason to risk themselves in battle. They have no expectation to risk themselves in battle. In fact, they would be amongst their silver colleagues seen as ridiculously foolhardy. They're not attached to that same honor. The golds are pretty much enslaved by an honor principle that dooms them to an early death, and the silvers are like, well, that sounds stupid. So yeah, ideally, I mean, they could fit themselves up with the best cybernetic weapons, um, and get I mean, they could fight on any battlefield because they have the money. They could, basically modify themselves. They could be an amazing war chassis, but why would they? So silvers basically are helming the production of war material. They
Yeah.
are crucial
Oh,
to the war effort, much in the way of the military complex needs for Ukraine. Just the generation of rudimentary artillery shells is crucial to the war effort, and so maintaining that flow of war material is where the silvers come into play, and it's where Quicksilver, his R&D. I mean, governments are good at certain things; they are not very good at development. They usually outsource that to private companies. Um, yeah, because there's an incentive for a private company, and private companies can run differently. So silvers and R&D and stuff would usually be outsourced. Silvers then are outsourcing it, of course, to their companies, and the blues and the greens and the yellows, etc., underneath their banner. War material,
Fabulous
huge.
answer
They're
to the
probably the most.
question.
They're more important to war than grays would be, to be honest.
supply chain,
Yeah,
baby. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
supply chain. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is the end of our questions for this round. So we now have.
Great.
Always money for a war. Gentlemen,
I think I gotta
please
turn
pick
on a
up
light
your
over here.
dice. Oop, all right. Pierce, you
Turn
left
on
some
the
dice in
light.
the other room, I guess. Oh, no, you're turning the
I
light.
got a
Okay.
dice. I got dice.
All right, sick. So, we have 2 bouts before the end of this, including this one, folks.
Is it including this one? Oh, wait, so 2
including-
left or 3 left?
Well, this is brown and silver, and this will decide.
Emily, can we
Oh, no,
navigate?
no, it's 3. Emily. Yeah, you're right.
Back to where,
Yeah, it's
can we-
3. This is the semis.
This is 3. Yeah, we have 3. We have 3 left. I wrote 6 in here. I just can't fucking count.
That's all right. So Master of Ceremonies,
Do it.
Emily, before we roll some dice, I would like to have you navigate back to our incredible bracket and show everyone where we are, how far we have to go. I feel like just, a taking space, taking place moment is due here because we're getting towards the end, guys.
Taking
And,
space.
Yeah, we're coming along. We're coming along.
And so at this point, what colors are left? I feel like I don't have these brackets in front of me. I'm a little lost. I've
Red,
just been
brown, silver.
Brown
So
has not
here-
been decided yet.
here-
We've got yellow, red, and violet up.
So here
Yeah.
in the bracket tracker, we have brown versus silver, which is what we're currently rolling. Then we will need to roll red versus yellow, violet versus winner of this bout, and then we will have our 2 champions, and we will do our championship grand champion roll.
We will have
Let's
our
do it.
semifinalists, or we have our finalists, and then the ultimate champion.
I love this. Thank you for bearing with me in my violet brain. I love how Pierce knew off the top of his head without looking at anything. This is
He's got the bracket
Oh,
printed
Joel,
behind his
they're all
computer.
my colors.
they are your colors. It's true. All right,
right,
let's
fellas.
roll these guys.
Let's see it.
Am I rolling?
Wait,
for?
who's rolling for who before we roll? I
Pierce,
don't
you'll
think
be
you.
rolling for brown. Joel, you're rolling for silver. Those are Rance
I'm
and
so
Scrouch,
sorry,
respectively.
So sorry, Silvers.
Don't apologize to the Silvers. They're not lost.
20!
Yet. Ooh, 2 natural 20s! Holy
What?
shit! Critical hits on each side. The foundations of the arena shudder under the
Both
power
got
of the
20s?
blows that are being exchanged. Roll again,
What the
gentlemen.
fuck? All right,
no.
roll again.
Oh no.
3.
2 and a 3. First point goes to Scrouch and the Silvers. Roll again, boys.
14.
15.
All right,
Oh,
2
no.
points now to the Silvers. Perhaps
15.
is it possible? Is it possible that the Joel Phillips curse, has finally been broken?
10.
14.
But maybe not. Okay, so 1 point to the Browns and to Rance.
Where are we at now? 2 to 2?
It's 2 to 1.
2 to 1.
What do
9.
you got there, Pierce? 9.
15.
9 and
Oh,
15.
no!
Oh,
Browns have fallen. The Browns have fallen. My namesake. No. I love you.
Browns of the Silvers, you are advancing on to the semifinals, my boy.
I did it! The curse is lifted.
And Rance, you have done better than
I'm proud of
most.
you.
I'm proud of
we're all
myself,
very
but I'm
proud of
also
you.
feeling incredibly sad about you just opened up about how much you connected to Browns and how that was written about you.
Yeah,
and
it's what happened. I cared too much.
That's
You
what
can't-
it was.
well,
you choked.
Okay.
You cared too much and you choked, or I
These things
saw
happen.
your caring
These
and I
things
decided
happen.
to stab you in the throat. One of those two.
Yep, you can't do
It's
it.
all right.
No
I still got my reds. It's okay.
parry.
All right.
All right, Rance, you've done better than most in this appalling spectacle, truly. Where other champions have fallen, you have stood tall. Just not as tall as your opponent in this round, unfortunately, partially due to them having severed your legs mid-thigh. You can see your feet and lower legs twitching in your peripheral vision as your opponent soaks in the adulation of the assembled crowd, and you cannot help but feel proud. You competed against such a mighty warrior. Salutes and love to you, dear Howler, and I do hope somebody can staunch your femoral arteries before... Oops. Well,
We lose you.
here we are, the semifinals. The excitement is palpable here in the arena, where the physically present crowds are agitated to a point of delirious violence. The slaughter has moved from the killing floor. The slaughter has moved from the killing floor into the stands, where the assembled society members have begun to throw punches. Can somebody summon the arena grays to get these people under control before something really unfortunate happens in here? While our able-bodied security forces quell this outbreak of madness, let's reintroduce our champions uh, from the left-hand side of the bracket. Those being uh, Red, Marissa, the champion of the Reds, the victor of the last two brackets. And their opponent in this semifinal match is the yellow champion, Stephanie Wayout, whose hands are still stained crimson from their previous opponent's grisly demise. So, Pierce, you're going to be rolling for Marissa and the Reds. But first, well, I think we have a little bit of time, right?
Maybe we could
No,
just do
maybe
a
not.
couple questions. Well,
Yeah,
I feel like
let's do
we've
one.
got
Just do one red.
one question from each, one from Red. All right. So let's see. Besides Lyria's perspective, she's a Red that was freed after the rebellion. Is there any other Red character that can give a new vision that maybe implies that Darrow was right?
Oh, I think a lot of Reds would have proven Darrow was right. Rolo Sicyon was one of them. Became the Arch Governor of Mars and ruled for quite a long time before meeting his eventual demise. Just because he met his demise doesn't mean he didn't feel like Darrow was right. I think a lot of the Reds would have, agreed with Darrow. Even Lyria's brothers, for instance, would have agreed with Darrow and shown that Darrow's or Eo's dream had transitioned to them. The problem is Lyria was left with no autonomy, no agency, no ability to do anything, and was left to molder in the camps. I think that any of the Red who was actually active, even if they were dying in service of the Republic, would have basically contradicted Lyria's point. Certainly not the Reds who took place or who sided with the Vox Populi on Luna, but in many ways they were in the same boat as Lyria was, which is to say they weren't participating, and so then they felt like they were just watching. And so I think that any Red that felt left behind would believe like Lyria, but millions and millions of Reds would have contradicted her viewpoint. Look at Darrow's brother. Look at Dancer even. Who would have had problems with what Darrow has done. There's certain aspects of it, but would not disagree with the Rising itself.
So I just want to follow that question up then with another question for you. So I loved how you wrote about Lyra because I felt deeply real in the way that the system is broken and what happens after the system is broken. So is there a reason why, as sort of the new character that you chose, a character of a Red? I mean, I guess obviously you already have Darrow, who's a Red, who sort of believes in this change. But there's a reason that you chose to really highlight Lyria's character and sort of highlight the way that things didn't work versus did work. I mean, why did you lean into that as hard as you did would be the follow-up question.
All three of the viewpoints in Iron Gold are people that had reason to pick a bone with Darrow. Ephraim for his reasons, Lysander and Lyria. And so never in my mind would I have picked a Red who agreed with Darrow. The entire course of her journey is discovering whether or not she agrees with Darrow, despite having learned more information, despite having lost her family. And so that, in many ways, is her journey. And I think that it was the journey of all the characters in Iron Gold who were featured to see whether or not they agreed with Darrow or agreed with the Rising. Because the entire reason I wrote the second series of books is to test the Rising, to see whether or not, with its flaws, with its happily ever after, challenging happily ever after, would it hold up to scrutiny, against the system that had prevailed before? Would, once they got their hands dirty, would they still be better than what came before? And I think resoundingly the answer that the characters discovered was yes, except for Lysander, for obvious reasons.
God, fucking love it, and I'm terrified and so excited to read Red God because Jesus Christ, how do you finish this shit? All right, so and Reds, we have. I feel like we need a question from the other folks. Who are we fighting against again?
The yellows.
I'm loving these questions so much. You're totally lost. And here's the answers: yellows.
The yellows have been
Yellows,
leaving bodies in their wake. They've carved their way through this field.
All right, so okay, we've got two questions left for yellows, and I may only have one chance to ask one. So I'm gonna go with my favorite. So some colors have their own physical characteristic that aids their skill set. I'm thinking specifically of obsidians having 6 fingers. What would yellows have in that universe? Would they have anything help them do what they do? Physical.
Nothing physical. No. The Obsidians, the other casts have it because what they're doing is primarily physical work. The Yellows would not have that same thing. They would have instead, much earlier educational curriculum. They're much more heavily invested in going through schooling and going through different types of schooling and different sects. Um, so I think that physically they wouldn't have anything that's very different. Different types of yellows, like battlefield yellows, would be trained quite differently, and their bodies would then reflect that. It wouldn't just be some skinny yellow who's then assigned to a battlefield unit. They would be pretty intense and go through separate training. However, they faced the same curriculum when they were kids, a general one that then they kind of branches off. So physically, it would depend upon which vocation within the yellow sect they pursued. If they're doing research, there's not much I think that would really benefit them, you know, that can't be provided by technology itself.
Great answer, as always,
Hell
my
yeah,
friend.
dude.
Well thought out.
Alright.
Let's roll some fucking dice.
Yeah, baby. All right. So, Pierce, you'll be rolling for the red champion, Marissa. Joel, you'll be rolling once again for yellow champion, Stephanie. Way out. Do them
Okay.
proud, and please announce the number on your die when it comes to a stop, because it's hard for me to read them.
8.
14.
8 versus
Oh
14.
no!
And the first
Tides
point
have
goes
turned.
to yellow. All right, do it again, boys.
17.
Killer P, what do you got?
Frozen.
You're frozen. All right.
We're
17
waiting.
is a
There
solid
it
number.
is.
18.
18.
Oh,
Holy shit.
fuck yeah.
This is going to be contentious. All right.
Fred will
So,
not go down to that fight.
It's in a
All
it's in a dead heat here. Roll them again.
15.
16.
God damn it!
Red is pulling ahead. We have 2 more rolls left to decide this.
16.
8.
Oh, buddy. Joel.
Red.
All right.
Red.
The bout goes to Red and Marissa.
We were
who
doing
advances
so well,
on into the
Yellows. We were doing
finals.
so well. I'm so sorry. I tripped on the finish line.
Don't make this about you, Joel. This is about Red.
Yeah, so Marissa, you're advancing on to the final bout. You'll have your chance to your shot at the laurel. Do your best to try to contain your excitement. And Stephanie, way out, you did so well. Your family
Really
back
did.
home. Yeah, your family back home is going to receive what remains of you in the post. We'll tell them to watch out for a small padded envelope containing several broken teeth and a terminal phalanx bone. These are going to look great on your mantle or on a finely wrought chain around your partner's neck.
I'm so
Things in the stands here at the Hazard Bedlam Memorial Arena seem to be going pretty poorly for our boys in gray, who have themselves been swept up in the excitement and violence breaking out in the audience. I wish you could see this, folks. Arterial sprays arc above the rioting heads of our physical attendees. Fists and razors and seats ripped from their moorings are flying all over. The screams and shouts of victory are deafening. This is indeed what the society is all about.
Amazing.
Speaking of which, we are due for another bout of murder here involving Batstitch, the Violet Champion, and Scrounge, the Silver Champ, who was brought to victory by the able hands of our Master Artificer, Jill Daniel Phillips. So yeah, Backstitch's ambition and bloodlust have led them yet again to the killing floor. Scrounge's mettle has been tested again and again tonight. Will they be proved to be worthy of the laurel? Let's ask one question each about Violet and then Silver.
All right, Violet and then Silver. Okay. This is tough to choose. We're getting towards the end, and there's so many good questions. Ooh, I really like this question. Do or did golds dictate what a violet's specialty is? Or were violets allowed more autonomy to specialize in their passion or talent?
Great question. Far more autonomy. Violets were judged by other violets. So the selection process for which avenue they pursue, imagine it to be more like Brown University. You get to decide your major. Now, of course, a gold might, lean on someone to be something, but even the golds are like, wow, these people are crazy. It's best to let them let them find maturity, and then get a good carver as opposed to try to make someone a carver. So imagine the violets just be the most freewheeling enterprise.
I fucking love that. I love that so much.
Actually, to be a violet, minus being minus being having like all the drugs forced in your system at a young age, which might be great, but probably not. It had the most fun because they get to try out everything to see what they like.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm just imagining like what those spaces look like internally amongst the violets. I mean, God, fucking
Oh, dude,
chaos.
yeah, yeah.
Just incredible.
Well, could you imagine
I
having
feel
an
like I could
instructor
just
as a
harp
violet?
endlessly on violets because I am a violet, but that would be incredibly egomaniacal and on brand. So I'm going to move forward and change the paradigm.
Those young
Silvers.
violet spaces are just one very large polycule, like going to art school.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my God.
My art
All
school
right,
was less cool than yours, I guess.
No, it was
this
not.
is a really. This is also my art school was terrible. But a question for Pierce, not for Master of Ceremonies or our Patreon guy, Carl. How does Julia Industries work if the silvers are the businessmen? Is it run by Victra and name only, or is like the golds are the CEOs and the silvers are the workers and financiers?
Imagine more so that most of the stock is owned by the gold, but the CEO is a silver. So CEO would be like, maybe chairman of the board, but then every other board member would be a silver. The gold shows up to break knees, or when they need to oust someone or change the leadership.
Didn't meet quota.
But yeah, just imagine the company is owned primarily by the gold, in terms of the shares. And so then they have all of the sway, but they don't want to be making the day-to-day decisions yet. Then they put someone in there who can realize their vision.
That is a very astute and thought-out answer, as always, Mr. Brown. Let's roll.
All right, fellas. So, what it looks like here is that. Right, Pierce, you this time are going to be rolling for the violets, and that is the instrument through which you will enact your violence. And Joel rolling once again for Scrounge, and the silver cast.
I think this is the first time I haven't felt conflicted.
Look, Scrounge rules. He's a solid dude.
I'm sure he is. My violet heart is violet.
18.
I don't know what this is.
Roll it
It's
again.
in between. Roll it again. It's like split between. It was a 16 and a 9. So
Nice.
7.
All right, Pierce, what was yours again?
Mine's an 18.
All right, that first
Oh,
round
wait,
goes to the violets. Let's see him.
14.
Oh, Joel, so much.
All right, I couldn't read what that was because you're choppy.
Mine was a 10.
All right, so a 10 spot, and that one goes to the
14.
silvers. All right, let's see it.
19. Fuck me.
19, and then Pierce, you're frozen.
Pierce is downloading from space.
Yep, just so. He's chipping his way out of the ice tombs, or out of the artist studio. He's chipping his way out of from below a bunch of oil paint, I guess. Get this guy some turpentine.
Got him.
I hope you'll. I hope all of you out there in. Go ahead.
Pierce is back. Hi, Pierce.
Roll, P?
Disappeared for a while. You disappeared for a while, Pierce.
You're
back. Welcome back. What did you roll?
I'm back. I rolled an 8.
All right.
I rolled a 19, and it's breaking my.
baby. All right. That's 2 points to the
son of a bitch.
Silvers. Oh, man. How is this going to end up? I, can barely contain myself. It's a whole thing.
20.
Whoa, natural 20. And then, Pierce, I can't read yours.
6.
Oh, no. Oh, backstitch.
I feel like really this is just a continuation of the theme of my bad luck because I win when I don't want to win.
That's the secret.
so
Congratulations, Scrounge. You beautiful man. You have taken this bout and will be one of our final competitors, matching up against Red Marissa in the final bout. And then backstage.
Silvers versus Reds. This does feel a little bit like the theme of my life, really.
This is intense, right? So yeah, man. Like, oh boy.
And backstage,
Yeah.
though you may not have accomplished the ultimate victory in this life, take comfort as the warmth leaves your body in knowing that you depart this world with your honor intact, though not the tissues of your throat, which hang like a gory beard from the teeth of Scrounge, your opponent. Let Escalates salute you and your phenomenal performance this night. Whoo! Wow, gory damn incredible. Yes, dear Howlers, we are witnessing Red Rising history in the making here, motherfucker. Someday you'll have your grandkids on your knee, and they'll ask, grandparent, where were you when the Hazard Bedlam 3.0 results were decided in a spray of blood and viscera? And you, dear Howler, will be able to tell them exactly where you were, online, with lit Escalades basking in the heat and wet of your color champions as they tear each other to shreds for your enjoyment. But before we get down to this final act of bloody spectacle, bear with me for a moment as I announce the names of some folks who, though they were not selected as color champions, are champions in a very different way, in the hearts of their proctors and their fellows. Selected by our volunteer proctors from amongst the 1,832 members of the Hazard Bedlam 3.0 Discord, these Howlers have demonstrated real community spirit and devotion to the Red Rising fandom, and for that, they deserve recognition as Mateo's Masters of Civility. These very special Howlers are Coyote, Shield, Warden, Bubbles_inbound, Falcon, Baker1, Maple, CW Grizz, Viscera, and Salmon. Emily, our mighty master of ceremonies on the Discord, will assign each and every one of you a special role, and will reach out about other rewards tomorrow, Monday. Thank you all for being such great community members. Fembers, is what he almost said. Fembers. Great community fingers. But now, here it is, folks. It's all led up to this, the final bout, the final rolls, the final conflict. Blood is drying on the seats of the arena. All the physical audience members have either been pulled into a red paste by their fellows or fled to save their skins. Your esteemable Patreon guy has been in no small amount of physical danger throughout the course of this event, but we here at Lit Escalates are nothing if not devoted to your entertainment. For the last time, those of you still physically able, please welcome your finalists in this battle of the colors. Returning from the Reds is Marissa, whose thirst for victory has allowed them to wade through the bodies of their fellows like a cranberry bog with eyeballs floating in it. This was another bad simile, but it's been a long night, fellas, and I'm deeply afraid that one of the remaining audience members will jump me on the way back to my transport. And in this corner, hailing from the esteemable Silver Cast, is none other than your friend and mine, Scrounge, whose friendly demeanor belies his insatiable lust for violence and mayhem. Uncountable bodies have fallen in his wake, and his hands will never be clean. Pierce, you'll be rolling for Marissa and the Reds. Joel, you'll be rolling once more again for Scrounge and the Silvers. Are you ready, gentlemen?
Ready, Freddy.
Let's fucking finish this. Who will prevail?
Oh, no.
7.
Looks like it. 9 for Pierce, is that correct?
The 9.
9 versus 7. First point for the Reds.
Silvers.
First point to the Reds. Let's do it again, boys. Joel, you're frozen.
10.
10 spot.
8.
8. That's 2 points to the Reds. Oh my God! Will we see
Let's
our
go
own
red. Let's
red
go
god
red. Let's
here?
go red. Nat 20. Nat 20. 16.
13.
All right, that's the match, ladies
Reds!
and gentlemen.
Yes.
Who could possibly have
Reds
foreseen
rose?
this?
What the fuck?
Reds won.
The Reds rose.
For anyone fucking asking before you email Emily, no, we did not plan this. We had
Oh, this
no
was barely planned at all.
There were no weighted dice. We are not that smart.
That is wild.
So, Scrounge, I have heard that a human head separated from the body will retain consciousness for up to 15 seconds afterwards. I hope you're enjoying the view of these empty, blood-soaked stands as the Grand Champion shows your rapidly cooling head to the absent crowd. You did well, and we're all so very proud of you. Lit Escalates salutes you, Scrounge, and the Silvercast for having gotten this far.
Fourth Scrounge.
Marissa, your victory will go down in the history books as one of the great accomplishments in this fandom, as you tossed your opponent's dripping noggin to the ground. A hologram of none other than Howler One himself appears before you to congratulate you on your win. Pierce, if you'd be so kind, give Marissa the praise she so rightly deserves.
First, I have to say how proud I am of you, not only because of my own personal connection to Reds, but because of all the billions of Reds out there. You stood strong against
Really, just
insert
impossible
13
odds.
champions.
Okay, there we go.
Impossible odds. And I salute you, and I'm proud of you. Joel, would you like to say anything to our Red champion?
Yeah, you got anything to say about that?
I mean, I think I already said it all, which was that we didn't try to do this. It was just beauty. It was the natural selection process and my own fucking bad luck in rolling and losing in almost every single time.
Yeah, but
I
the
think-
Silvers
did I win
Scrounge
twice?
was your guy.
Did I win twice? Whole
At
time?
least
Oh, balloons. I got balloons. That was
3
so nice.
times.
Thank you.
3 times.
3 times. 3 times
3
out of
times all
like what,
day.
12 rolls. Wow. Well, so we have theoretically 20 minutes left on the clock. I don't want to take up too much of Pierce's time or any of y'all's time. So we've got a handful of questions that have been collected by our incredible moderators over the course of this evening's 2 hours and 40-minute long event so far, ticking along. And I'm going to ask a few of those questions to Pierce in no particular order. And we are going to chat about those for a second, and then we'll probably sign off before we all melt in our seats. So before I get into those, first and foremost, thank you everyone so much for being part of this year's Hazard Bedlam. It has been a joy to watch everyone interact with each other, and it's been so much fun tonight to play this ridiculous and absurd game. And I hope no one is angry at me representing them. I didn't try to be bad at this. I just was born that way. So we have some questions, and I'm going to dive into those. Scrolling through these real quick. All
Just
right.
1 second.
Ooh, I like this question. Oh, Emily, you've got something to say?
Well, Pierce has just stepped away, so just 1 second.
Oh,
While we wait for him.
all right. Well,
I'm here.
It gives me a chance to scroll through these questions. And
I'm here.
He's-
I'm just in the
He's just
closet.
adjusting his
He's just-
colostomy bag.
In the closet.
Don't mind me. Yeah,
Wait.
training the old snake.
All right. Well, actually, my favorite question so far is the beginning question. All right. Pierce, I feel like we could probably guess this after the evening's conversation, but what color do you personally identify with most?
It is a secret.
Frozen in a really dramatic way.
Yeah, I was frozen in a really dramatic way.
All right, I'm back. What's the question?
Which color do you personally identify with most?
Red. I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's like I think it's because little is expected of Reds, and they're seen as disposable, and so when they achieve, I feel very proud. I think, like, to be honest, in life, Violet, but I'm most proud of the Reds in the story.
Yeah, that's a good
There's
answer.
something about the little engine that could, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But and like Red's sort of, I mean, they're the everyman. It's funny. I identify with violets, obviously, but I'm also feel like I'm a red. So I feel
Well,
like that's
I think there's something about our society that makes a lot of us feel like Reds.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Um, one a follow up question to that, which is unrelated, but this combines a lot of comments. Apparently, thank you, Skipper, for that. Will there be spin-off books, novellas? And you don't have to answer that. I'm just gonna say that out front. Earth Conquest prequel, Ephraim Heist novella, etc. Is this something? So I'm gonna rephrase that
Yeah,
because I personally don't want to. I know you can't say will there be, but are there
yeah.
any of those that like pop into your head as a writer that you're like, I would love to write that?
Oh, there's so many, and there's so many novellas and little vignettes I'd like to explore. I think that what's really nice about this series and this world is that it's one you want to live in and you want to see texture of it. I think the questions reflected this is that you just want to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. And so, from my perspective, I'd love to play in a lot of different aspects of it. I want to write something out after I conclude Red God. Um, so I need to stretch my muscles and have fun again to then
Mhm.
dive back into the Red Rising world and have it be fun for me. So yeah, I'd love to explore the Conquering. I'd love to explore Tales of Stoneside, things in Roan's life. I'd love to follow the Olympic Knights and to really get into their order and what the different knights mean and what their different who the different types of people are that represent them. I'd
Mhm.
love to get more into the Rim. I'd love to get more into the Greens and different casts. And I think that as I continue to be inspired by the world, which I think will be me taking a break from it for a little bit, I'll want to continue making things in it. And so, with that said, I'd love to explore that in a lot of different mediums. I think that there's things that might be better for a video game. There's things that might be better for a novella, and I think that I'll just have to figure out which stories fit where going forward.
I feel like that's like a perfect thing to end the evening on here. And so, actually, have a question. It's not for the chat because we're gonna probably close this pretty soon. But jump back on the Discord, everybody, and I would be very curious as the proprietor of Lit Escalates to know like what sort of stories and canonical, chaotic backstories would you be interested to see fleshed out in the form of anything, whether it's
Yeah,
a book or a movie or a comic book or anything. We are spinning our chaotic little brains always over here, and you know we're aware that this series is coming to a conclusion, and also thinking about what we're making next all the time. So, if you have a particular thing that you want to see, story, person, backstory, idea fleshed out, I don't. Emily will tell you where to drop that, but I would love to be able to read through those, and I think Pierce probably would as well.
that definitely would. I think that a lot of the inspiration I get comes from the dialogue I have with the readers, particularly because if someone says something that I've been thinking about in my head, and it gives me excitement because then it's almost like having permission to delve into that side of things. But also, there's a lot of stuff I haven't thought about. That's the fun thing about the Red Rising Worlds is that it's impossible for me to hold it all in my head because as it gets broader and it gets deeper, and like the questions presented here, it's impossible for me to think of everything. So when something's given to me, so cool. Like
Yeah.
it really can take me down a rabbit hole myself and make me feel like I'm also discovering the Red Rising world.
Let's make that happen. Emily, would you, I don't know, tell people where to put those or make a new channel for that?
Oh,
So you
Already
can.
done.
I'm already on it. Although, actually, I did
Oh,
just tell
yeah.
people to put it in Agora, but if you give me 5 minutes before you put in, or maybe two, I will make you a new channel right above Agora
Oh,
that will be the perfect place for this.
I
just
love
so.
this.
That's a
Thank
suggestion,
you.
folks.
Well, I'm going to wrap this evening up because we are coming up on our time here, and it's been almost 3 hours that you all have spent with us on the internet. So, first and foremost, I have a huge thank you Emily and Carl for putting this crazy event together. This was fabulous. This was so much fun. And you guys, I know, worked your butts off. And a close second to all of our mods. You guys have done an incredible job behind the scenes helping us run this. We could not have done this without you. It has been an incredible privilege to get to know you guys a little bit through the digital spaces. I know I've been a little bit quiet. I've mostly just been watching behind the scenes, as I know Pierce has as well. But we have been really appreciative of how much work you guys have put into this space. It's been hours and hours of volunteer time, and hours and hours and hours of volunteer time. So thank you from the bottom of my charcoal-stained heart. Pierce, do you have anything you want to say to everyone as a send-off?
The community that's come together over these books has been highly influential on my enthusiasm to continue the series, but also it's incredible to see the cleverness, the insanity that comes with y'all dialoguing together, like, sometimes being like peeping from the bushes like Joel does on some of these conversations is just absolutely hilarious. And I can't tell you how fun it is to see me create something and then y'all just run with it. And thank you for your enthusiasm, thank you for your support, and thank you for continuing to make this a lot of fun to do, and allowing Joel and me to conspire together over these years has been so fun, because we were sitting in front of the fire, like, what was it, like, 11 years ago, 12 years ago now, and I was telling you about about the book and the alchemical symbols, and then like a day later you had the Ares helmet drawn and you had all the sigils done, and it just started feeling more and more real, and then culminating in moments like this is pretty great. Getting to wear the shirts you designed off of something
I didn't make that one. That was PB Doodles. I gotta hand that off to PB.
Well, CPB, just that fact, someone creating it and then people wearing it is something I never thought would happen, because all the books I wrote before were like, the only readers I had were under duress, my mom and my sister sometimes, and and the Phillips clan, all the Phillips boys read my books. So thank you just to everyone for everything, and love you all to bits.
All right, we're off. Thanks to y'all.
Thanks, everybody. It's been fab.
Thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight. Thank you to Pierce, to Joel, to our volunteer proctors, and especially to Emily for her tireless work making this event fun and accessible to you all. And if you're not already backing the Lit Escalates Patreon, you bloody well should. And if you are, come say hi in the group chat sometime. Until next time, this is Patreon guy Carl saying, if you're out at night and you're on your bike, wear white. Evening all.